Out of the gates and ready to go. Hot Mic with Hunton and Wirth is underway on this Tuesday edition. Glad you're with us across the network as we broadcast live from 6th and Peabody with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Always great to be a part of their property here each and every day. Jam-packed show today. Senator Tommy Tuberville on the program yet again. He's coming up later this hour. There is the 10th congressional hearing for NIL on Capitol Hill, which took place earlier this morning. More on that in a moment, but we'll get into further details on where we are in this entire process. Chad, you've laughed, but for good reason there, because this is going nowhere fast, even though it seems like that we're discussing this month after month after month. We'll have Coach Tuberville discuss things with us coming up in about 40 minutes from right now.
I mean, Congress does hearings the way the ladies group in my church does brunch.
Yeah.
It's an every
Ladies'
week
Day
thing. Let's just get together and talk about things with no real solutions and no real momentum to anything. The 10th time they've gotten together to do this?
10th.
Yeah, I've got some serious questions for Senator Tuberville when he comes on.
Yeah.
What exactly is getting done here will be question number one for him, and whatever gets done when it comes to these things. Can't wait to talk to him.
John McClain is back on the show today in hour number 2. We've got plenty on the docket for NFL news and headlines. We'll dive in on all of that coming up. Michael McHenry, our MLB analyst, former MLB catcher, he breaks down the playoffs for us, the Rangers with the 2-0 lead over the Astros. And Jim Nagy, he's the executive director of the Reese's Senior Bowl. He will tell us about what he saw between Oregon and Washington this past weekend. We'll look ahead to the NFL talent that will be on the field for Ohio State, Penn State, all of that and more throughout the show. You can join us on YouTube. We're streaming live, and you can join Chad in the chat on that.
Get in on that chat while you can.
Absolutely.
While it's hot.
That's right. And if you're joining us on X, formerly known as Twitter, thank you for clicking the one link that we'll be sending out today through OutKick.
Be sure to retweet that one link that's going to be posted.
The one.
It's like a chain, right? It's like an email chain. You got to keep it going. Let's just repost it over and over and over again and make sure people see it. I'm going to go and repost it right now. Tell a friend, get them to repost it. Let's repost that thing.
Chad,
I want to say one more time. I say repost. Repost. There it is. 2 more times. One more. Repost, please.
That's right. You mentioned and I confirmed the 10th congressional hearing on NIL took place this morning.
Can confirm a 10th hearing.
But, for the 10th, it was there were some major Power 5 voices that were testifying in front of lawmakers today. Others would send in sworn documents and written testimony to present to those that are on this panel. And one of them is President Charlie Baker, who made his first public appearance in front of lawmakers. You also had Big Ten Commissioner Tony Petitti, who was there, and Jack Swarbrick. He submitted his written testimony. All of them are discussing the college football and college athletics in crisis, pointing to name, image, likeness, pay for play, the worry, and it's the worry that we're headed towards a college football players association. And that was really on the minds of all of those talking heads and voices that were more or less whining about the current product being in crisis, although I don't know if we've ever seen college football more popular, quite frankly. They're pointing to a lot of hurdles that will have to be taken on by the NCAA. They want federal legislation to tamp down those potential hurdles and back what would be law instead of just guidelines or bylaws that the NCAA couldn't enforce back in 2021. Chad, this is, they want Washington, D.C. to support them because while they will talk about, well, if we're going to end up paying a substantial amount of money to college football players, that's not fair, and we're going to end up having to confront Title IX and what that entails for the equal amount for all participation in college sports. What they're really not saying is this. There is payment distribution, media rights contracts that are massive. For instance, in 2007, the media rights distribution in the SEC was $10 million.
Ooh.
It is now, as of last year, $53 million.
Ooh.
42 to 45%
That's
on
per
average.
school, by the way.
Per school. 42 to 45% of all Power 5 conferences. That percentage of, let's say, the SEC, 52, 53 million, 42 to 45% goes to not student aid or athletes' participation from the university side of things. No. That's the percentage that goes to coaches, the support staff, the administration, and, oh, by the way, severance packages and buyouts to coaches that they've let go and fired. 42 to 45% of the athletic budget goes to that, not to the players. The players are getting about 9% of the athletic budget that the university puts out. And when you think about it that way, they want federal legislation to, at minimum, put a cap on the percentage that can be paid out to the athlete. So that now, in 2029, the assumption is that we're going to have the SEC making $104 million per school in media rights deals. $104 million. It was $10 million in 2007. And they somehow had an athletic budget that could be manageable then. And it's certainly going to be manageable in 2029, just like it is right now. And what they're not coming out and saying is, we want the collectives done away with. We don't want to see the athletes viewed as employees, and they certainly don't want to see a players' union. And that's because it would be the NFL model, where the players on the media rights deals in the NFL, 49.5% of that money goes to the players through the salary cap and through the roster money in the collectives that each team must pay out at least a floor. College doesn't want to see that. And it's not because they need to maintain all these sports. It's because they want to keep the bag. And it's a massive bankroll, especially when you look at the percentage payouts as they are right now, and they're already complaining about the 9% of the athletic budget going to the athlete and not the university. That's what this is about.
Yeah, and the other part of this is, well said, Hutton, on that. The other part of this is boosters are going to get strained with all of this. You got Mark Stoops coming out after a loss to Georgia saying, hey, if you want us to compete with and beat Georgia, you need to ante up. We need more NIL money because they're paying for their players. They're spending more money, and they're always going to get better players for that reason. Well, you can go to boosters only so many times, and now they're getting hit up on all sides. They're getting hit up by collectives to help keep talent coming through the pipeline for their individual schools. They're getting hit up by the university and the athletic director and the athletic department to buy premium seats, to sponsor different things, to give. And these high-priced boosters that have a ton of money, they don't have all that money for always being charitable. Eventually, they're going to want to keep their bag as well, just like these teams and these schools want to keep their bag. So they're going to want to keep that also. I think a lot of them are probably sitting back thinking, can't we just cut out a percentage of what you're making in media rights and just give that as a lump sum to football players across the conference and just put in rules that say every single team in the SEC or the Big Ten or whatever conference you're in based on media rights gets this percentage of the money coming in because of football or because of men's basketball or whatever it may be? That would actually eliminate some of our dollars having to go into this just to have a viable competitive team within tough competitive conferences. So that seems like a pretty easy compromise to me. But what happens in all of these stories? It's one word: greed. Greed gets in the way. It's the greed of the schools in this sense, and it's eventually going to be greed with players also. Not greed right now. They're wanting to get what's owed to them or what's coming to them, but is that really going to be enough when they get a certain percentage of it? Probably not. They're going to have agents and people working on their behalf that's always going to try to get more and more and more and more. And this is a system that, while now Ratings look good. Interest in the sport is really good. I don't know that it's sustainable forever. There does need to be rules put in place. And the rules that it's leading to is a 40 or 50 team super conference of college football that will collectively bargain their own media rights and give out a percentage of money with that media rights to the players in the major money sports of that conference. I think that's where we're headed eventually. But until then, we're going to get, 10, 20 more congressional hearings about this? Just wasting time and having speaker after speaker ask things that have nothing even to do with NIL at times in these. That's where we're headed. And there's no end in sight.
That's right. And the other thing just to keep in mind here is the same leaders of college athletics, the same commissioners and leadership of the NCAA who has allowed the networks to control where we're headed with everything. Those same leaders are pointing to the issues within 9% of the athletic budget. In some cases in the SEC, athletic budget could be as much as $215 to $220 million. 9% of that goes to student athlete aid and support from the roster, from the university and the athletic department. 42 to 45% to coaches, administration, and severance packages. That's really all you need to know. It's not going, the vast majority of it's not going to the athletes, and it's not going because of Title IX. It's going to failed leadership and buyout money, and then these massive contracts that also include more buyout money.
And I think what's crazy about the buyout money is, what are we talking about with A&M right now? Price of oil for a barrel's over $100. So now the A&M boosters have the money to buy out Jimbo easily,
right,
if this year continues to go downhill.
And they did before, but that's
right.
a reason to point to.
But here's what I'm getting to. It's not the schools always paying the buyout. They're dipping back into the hands of the pockets of their boosters over and over and over again. There is fatigue with people. They won't give forever, and they can't give to everything. So you're going to have to give. The university that's getting the check for all the TV rights, you're going to have to give up the majority of that. And if it means cutting sports, while I hate that, and I don't think we're there yet, that is probably what's going to eventually happen, because you can only milk the cow so many times before the cow's purple. And that's what we're seeing right now with boosters. So this isn't Saudi Arabia. This is not an ever-ending flow of money from boosters that you're going to continue to go to like an A&M to get the next middle linebacker, or to buy out the coach that you stupidly hired and has failed within 3 or 4 years, and you have to now buy out because the agents are controlling the system and the contract for the coaches is out of control with buyouts. This is a system that the powers that be have set up. It is now failing. It is on them to fix it. And to fix it, it means legitimate change. Are they willing to legitimately change? I think we know the answer to that.
Well, the money, though, just keep in mind, the money's there from the media rights contracts. It's just how they distribute it. They're still going to the boosters as if they're poor, which is not the case. Chad, ESPN has laid off many solid employees over the years, and certainly this past spring, early summer. That includes more than just great talent in front of the camera, and that was evident last night with Monday Night Football.
Yeah, look, I'm using a snapshot here of what I saw, because I will fully confess I did not watch all of Monday Night Countdown before the Chargers and the Cowboys last night. But what I did watch was one segment on the field, and I think Scott Van Pelt's very good at his job. I think he could be very good at this job if he was given a good show that was well-produced to do before the games. He's much better at SportsCenter afterward, because I think that's a well-produced show. Scott Van Pelt was on set with Marcus Spears, Ryan Clark, and Stephen A. Smith in what I can best describe as sort of a masturbatory segment about Stephen A. Smith, and had nothing to do with the game that was before them. It was Stephen A. Smith joining their set in a Dolce & Gabbana sweatshirt with the logos all over it, put his sunglasses on the table, and started talking about how the Cowboys are a miserable organization and this and that. And then it was Ryan Clark and Marcus Spears getting fake angry with him, bad-mouthing his New York Knicks and comparing them to the Dallas Cowboys. It was terrible television. And I do not understand why a company the size of ESPN and Disney would spend the amount of money they do on a product like the NFL, hand over all that money, and then bring to the public a show of that low of a caliber before the game. I don't get it. Monday Night Countdown was far better before, and they laid off some of their better people. And I'm sure not every segment is what I saw last night. And I'm not even some Stephen A. Smith hater. I know exactly what he's paid to do. He knows exactly what he's paid to do. He's very good at what he does, and he's very good on that show. But to bring Stephen A. Smith on set in L.A. to just provoke two other guys on set and then start this fake disagreement argument on air, it was bad television in a pregame buildup to a Monday Night Football game, the preeminent sports product you have on your network that you've paid billions for and will continue to do so over the years. It was awful. I don't understand it. I don't know why you spend that much money and then produce that we saw last night.
Well said. And it goes back to you lay off talent in front of the camera, but also behind it. And they're betting on the fact that football fans are still going to tune in and watch.
You get what you pay for.
You do.
And we're seeing that. And it was one long segment, but it was way too long and felt like it was about 4 hours long.
Dallas Cowboys, the Spanish announce team, were denied access to a press box last night, a booth. So they did it in the press box and were epically hilarious. We'll get into that more next.
Now, yesterday, in the wake of the Trevor Bauer bombshell outing his accuser as a disgusting liar, I made the call to end the Me Too movement. And today, I'm going to continue making that case. What was once born as a push to protect real victims has, in many cases, just like we saw with Bauer, turned into an awful manipulation tactic by immoral women to strip men of their power. And we, as a society, continue to just let it happen. Time and time again, it seems. Such also, as we have seen in the past, the cases of Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh, who was on the brink of not being confirmed after being accused of sexual assault stemming from his college years. There was the 3 members of the Duke lacrosse team who were accused of raping a stripper at a party, and former Bills punter Matt DeRiza, who was accused of gang rape. These are just 3 examples, all of which were proved to be untrue accusations. Men have been put through absolute torture. They have had massive opportunities stolen from them. Their lives, livelihoods, and reputations devastated solely because they were Me Too'd. Meaning a woman made a claim and it was accepted as a fact, even though in all of these cases, it was nothing but a lie. The believe all women era, no matter what, must end right now. Even Matt DeRiza, who was still out of a job in the NFL, realizes the threat of it. Here's what he said after being released from the Bills following his untrue accusations.
It's just the climate of how things are now. Accusations bring so much hate to anyone who decides to stand by the accuser that they were kind of forced to cut me from the team.
Now, don't get me wrong. If you are a true victim, I implore you to find the courage to come forward under any and all circumstances. However, if the behavior with the accused man was consensual, let's say, if there is an ulterior motive, maybe a money grab, a play for attention, then please spare us. Don't take the legs out from under real victims who now will no doubt have become discredited because of stunts like the ones I just mentioned. Real victims should be absolutely furious. Just because a woman says something does not mean it should be assumed as fact. And to everyone out there, be careful. Save those receipts. Finally, I also see no reason to continue a movement to protect women when women don't even take the steps to protect themselves anymore. For example, self-proclaimed feminists all over the country are in favor of having biological men in their bathrooms, in their locker rooms, in their sorority houses, in their safe spaces. And even those who aren't outwardly in favor still neglect to stand up against things like this, despite the integration causing an inherent danger for all women. Look how Virginia dad Scott Smith was treated after he confronted the Loudoun County School Board in Virginia after his 15-year-old daughter was the victim of a brutal sexual assault by a transgender in a female bathroom. So how is this dad going to be attacked when he was standing up for his underage daughter? I don't understand it. Where is the concern for this girl's safety? Isn't this a Me Too concern considering she was sexually assaulted? No, it's not. And that is the problem right here, because you can't pick and choose which girls and women get protection under this awareness campaign. And on the flip side, who can be classified as an assailant?
Sixth and Peabody, our location with EHOP Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Hot Mike with Hunton and Wirth rolls on across the OutKick network. We're asking you to repost the link from OutKick on social, on X. You can also join us on YouTube. Just search out OutKick there and subscribe to the channel. Join chat in the chat. Wave your flag.
I just want to, instead of putting the description of the show, when the post happens, let's just put repost this.
Repost.
With a link. Just repost this with a link, and we can see if that catches on like wildfire. Hutton, you grew up on a farm, right?
I did.
You were around hay a lot?
Yes.
You and I both have allergies.
It was not.
I cannot go on a hayride with my kids. Oh. There was a fall festival at my youngest daughter's school, and I did that a couple times as a kid. Oh. I don't know how I survived it, but just sitting on hay. We were on this thing on a tractor carrying the hay bales for 10 minutes. 15 minutes, immediately sneezed 8 times when I got off the thing. Immediately. The trigger point reaction in my nasal cavity to sitting on hay is insane. Every single time it gets me.
My allergies are different than that. I get just stopped up, and then my eyes are like swelling from from the allergy.
I get that'll happen sometimes. It's a certain type of grass. But I get almost with anything violently sick. Usually my illness is a shorter period of time, but it's violent while I'm sick. It's like really bad sneezing, really bad runny nose, can't stop my nose running like a faucet, or I'm throwing up for 6 hours instead of 9 or 12. But those 6 hours are hell on earth. It's always quick and violent when I get sick.
Jed, I would be sick if someone told us, hey, you have to just do the show in front of the rest of the press box instead of having your own booth if we were calling a game. That's what happened to the Dallas Cowboys Spanish announce team. And they did their broadcast like normal from the press box with the working press there. I would guess everyone's not happy with that, but they had no other option. And I showed you 2 clips during the break, but they were into it as you would expect. And props to them for doing exactly what they normally would have done had they had their own booth. I don't know how you don't have enough booths for the working press in a state-of-the-art stadium like that. What they're doing now, though, is they're just selling suites, and if the suites aren't sold, that ends up being an extra booth. That's the case with visiting radio, for instance, in Dallas, where we were. That's a working suite when it's not game day for concerts and other things. I guess SoFi is just for other things. Not the working press. Props to the Dallas Cowboys Spanish announce team. They crushed it. The Chargers also have one, but they had their own booth.
Well, it's first off, I'd love to be this enthused about anything the way the Spanish announce team is during the game and the energy they bring to the broadcast. Terrific. Every time in every sport. And maybe it's something about the Spanish language, a beautiful language, and one that just sounds excited at all times, no matter what's being said. But I love the footage of them in the middle of the press box. Hutton, we had this similar experience one time. We're in Canton at the Pro Football Hall of Fame doing a broadcast. Was this Kevin Mawai's year.
Mm-hmm.
I think this was Kevin Mawai being inducted. We were up there for him. Paul Kuharski, our old colleague and host, is there. Maybe the biggest fight I got into with our old engineer, Kirby, who we love to death. But we get there and get set up. And Hutton's always way more calm, like during setup time with engineers. And I'm usually in the middle. And then, of course, Paul's on the extreme end of getting angry. And I'm kind of trying to just coax Kirby and be nice with him and saying, hey, man, I don't know if this is going to work because we're in the working written media area. And everyone in here is quiet as a mouse, like we're in the middle of a library and we're studying for finals.
That's a great.
So we should not just, take our voices to the max and start a show in here at 11 a.m., Eastern time in front of the working media. Kirby assures me, oh, no, it's fine. This is the one spot to set up. They told me to go wherever, and this has the nice table hookup and internet cords right here. Everything's good to go. I'm thinking, okay. But Kirby, when we start this show, it's going to be awkward, so we got to be ready to move. No, it's fine.
I'm coming out of the gates with it.
Hutton barrels through this thing. I mean, like a Jeep in a military movie going through a barricade. That is Hutton's voice when he comes on air every time. Out of the gates and ready. I mean, just full-throated, boom, right? There is a gentleman about 65 years old in front of us who's working on a story or doing something. And, I mean, you would have thought that fireworks were going off inside this building. He was startled and starts talking to me. I'm on the end. And Hutton can just blow through anything and just tunnel vision, not see it. I notice everything around me at all times. This guy is so angry. He puts his laptop down. He's talking to me. I've got a headset on, microphone in front of me. He's telling me, be quiet. You're too loud. And he's doing this hand signal. And I'm trying to hand signal him saying, we're live. We're live. I knew my sign language live.
I'm off and rolling.
I'm saying we're live. Hutton's not acknowledging any of it, doesn't know what's going on, doing the show like nothing, just like these Spanish announcers in the press box, rolling through it. Admirable. This guy is in my face. I'm trying to tell him that we're on air without telling him that. I'm putting the mic away to tell him. I'm staring down Kirby, our engineer, looking at him like, you did this to us. It's
how dare you.
And you alone. And what happened, Hutton? We went to a break. And Kirby moved us into a hallway.
Luckily, we had a break long enough to allow us to move the equipment. And we did that. And we were back within like 5.5 minutes.
I just looked at Kirby. I said, do you believe me now? And he just kind of came. It was like his idea at that point. It's the funniest part was, hey, guys, I think this might be a better spot. I found another hookup for it. Okay, great. Good job, Kirby. Appreciate it.
In a room with just us. It was perfect.
It was amazing. It was beautiful. But that's our comparison.
You know what else I find beautiful? The play sheet of Mike McCarthy last night. Very organized, color-coded, and you know exactly what the third down plays are for certain downs and distances. You've got the high red zone and much more. And the organization allows the clarity of the camera to pick up what's on the back of his play sheet as he's looking at the current play that he's calling in for Dak Prescott. Truth be told, there's not a lot that the other team doesn't know in their scout process about what you run and when. But, I mean, Chad, coaches go to great lengths to cover their mouths as they're delivering a play call to the quarterback. And in this case, you have the game plan that Dallas put forth for the Chargers specifically based on down and distance against what defenses they thought they would be facing.
Well, let me give you my prediction about what's going to happen with this now.
Okay.
This is clearly the team's fault, right? For making something on the back of a card or whatever that can be so clearly visible and holding it up that way. They're not going to get the blame. The network is going to get the blame for this. ESPN is going to get the blame. Someone's going to come back and say, how dare you give away our state secrets this way with that close-up of a camera shot?
Yeah.
You don't need to be in our coach's face. You don't need to be that close. I guarantee you there is a memo being sent out or something happening today, emails back and forth. Some responded to, some not, probably on a group email from the NFL and the team and the network about what they can and can't do because of all this. And it's all silly. I don't think this really gives away much of anything. It's also not a great look for the team giving it away.
Cowboys are going into a bye week, I believe, and then they come back to face the Rams at home. It's going to be a bye week where they're changing some of their formations and play calls, at least visually. Chad, coming up in just a moment, we'll discuss part of this headline with Davey Hudson. Julio Jones, now a member of the Philadelphia Eagles. He's joining that wide receiving core. Philly taking on Miami this coming Sunday night in what's going to be a solid matchup between two great offenses. Maybe you want to check out that point spread. You can do that with PointsBet. If you haven't taken your shot with PointsBet, now is the perfect moment. The big reason why, exclusively for first-time PointsBet users, grab this unique offer. Right now, new PointsBet users get up to $1,000 in second chance bets. If your first offer doesn't go as planned, PointsBet has your back with a second chance. Get this offer by visiting OutKick.com/bet. OutKick.com/bet is where you can go to complete the registration process with PointsBet and make your first bet. If your first bet happens to lose, well, second chance, this is what that means. That's when the second chance bets come into play. Remember, terms and conditions apply. You got to be 21 or older in legal gambling states. Gambling problem, 1-800-GAMBLER. OutKick.com/bet to snag this offer. It is time for NFL Overreaction with Davey Hudson.
Hud, before we get into that, I would like to add, I think that the Cowboys are playing 3D chess. I don't think they are a very good team, and so everything we saw on that card is actually fake. It's just a thing to where they're trying to get the other teams to, like, dig into it.
Yeah. Well, a lot. I mean, the vast majority of the down and distance that we saw, high red zone, you kind of know what Dallas runs if you are doing the NFL model of scouting.
It reminds me of 1999 when Coach Mike Leach printed out fake pamphlets of where they wanted the defense to go to create holes for what the actual game plan was for the offense. And Oklahoma, who was terrible going into that season, and Texas, one of the top teams in the country, Oklahoma was able to get out to like a 21-0 lead thanks to the cleverness by Mike Leach. But we'll go ahead. We'll get into
Hold on, quick. Wasn't it Operation Mincemeat in World War II? There was a Netflix movie about it where the British had a dead officer and they planted fake plans on the officer that they planted in the sea somewhere for the Germans to find to redirect their plans. And they planted basically a fake playbook of what the Brits were up to, so they would take the bait and then they would attack in a different area. Another, even predating Mike Leach, where that happened.
That did happen. I believe you're correct on the mincemeat for the operation name. I don't have any operation names for our topics in NFL Overreaction. I will say that much. But just to get started, we currently have 5 teams sitting at 5-1 atop the NFL when you're looking at the league as a whole. So I'm looking at these teams, and the Lions are the best team in the NFC.
I'm going to say they are one of them for sure. I don't know that I'd call this an overreaction. I think it's a fair opinion at this point, right? I'm going to go with it as an overreaction because I don't believe it to be true. I think it's San Francisco or Philly still at this point. But there is an argument to be made that, first off, there's no argument to be made. It's truth. They're one of the best teams in the NFC right now by record and what they've shown on the field. And while I think it's San Francisco or Philly, I'm willing to listen to opinions about it being the Detroit Lions is the best team in the NFC.
I think Detroit's the second best because Philly hasn't played their best, but they're still winning. San Francisco is atop the NFC. I want to see what happens now with Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey on the injury report moving forward. That evens the playing field a bit. But, again, it's San Francisco. They have the most complete team. Detroit has the most consistent team.
Speaking of San Francisco, Brock Purdy, no longer a top 10 quarterback.
No, he still is. He has one loss, and people are overreacting to it.
Yeah, I think that's an overreaction. I think Brock Purdy's still one of the best in the league. It's crazy to think about where he started, but he's shown enough now where one bad game in bad weather, I'm not going to say that he's lost it. So still top 10.
Okay. The Eagles, after signing Julio Jones, they have the best wide receiver core in the league.
I don't think Julio Jones makes a bit of difference for this. So
we could have asked this last week, too.
Last week it could have been the argument. They're definitely one of the best. I lean Miami just with the speed of that group that's so different than the rest of the league right now. So overreaction with Philly having the best wide receiving group.
It's Miami at the top for me. Philly is right there. Same could be said for Cincinnati talent-wise. San Francisco, when healthy, I mean, if we're counting tight ends here, and I believe we are because those guys are basically paid like receivers now, San Francisco's in the mix. Ayuk is solid when healthy. Same for George Kittle. Put those teams at the top.
Yeah, Dallas Goedert's not exactly gotten the looks and the production that we've seen from years past
weird.
with the new play caller, but I would definitely say he's one of the top guys there. And, just speaking of like top play makers, Tyreek Hill is the most valuable non-quarterback in the NFL.
I'm going to say overreaction, and I'll say it. One simple reason: the Chiefs went on to win a Super Bowl a year ago after he left. I don't think the other most impactful players that are on this list, if they left their team, they could equal anything they did the year before. So I'm going to go Justin Jefferson or Micah Parsons as my answer. I think you could pick either or. I don't think the Cowboys are what they are and could equate anything to the season before if he wasn't there. Same goes for Justin Jefferson.
Tyreek Hill with Tua Tagovailoa, in the 18 games Tua has started and finished, Tyreek has 126 catches, 2,062 yards, 13 touchdowns. He averages 114 yards per game receiving with those stats, if you do the math there. The Dolphins average 30 points per game when both players are on the field. It's hard to argue against that claim, Davey. It's not an overreaction. There are just others that could also stake their claim to it.
He's in the mix. Hill is.
He absolutely is. Joining the mix next, Senator Tommy Tuberville will discuss NIL legislation.
I'm here at the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix, but that's not the only big race that's on people's minds. Let's go talk about it.
There's no way Biden can win again. There's just no way. Even the people that voted for him because they didn't like Trump, now at least have to see like senile, not all there. Probably won't be alive for 4 more years.
Are you a Trump guy? Or are you a DeSantis guy? Or someone else?
I don't like any of them.
Who's your dream candidate? Who would you want to run?
Myself. I think the best candidates probably are smart enough not to run.
I just hope there's somebody that's young enough to care about the country instead of their politics.
My fear is they get Gavin Newsom from California. And I think it would be the new cool vote for the younger people, and that's what I don't like.
Who do you think on the Republican side would be able to take on Gavin Newsom?
Great question. As a Republican registered, I love what Trump's body of work did, but they're just out to get him and destroy him, and we won't get things done, which is crappy for me to say. I thought DeSantis was going to be the guy. Trump only has 4 years left. He cannot fix everything that just happened in 4 years. And he's going to be battling indictments and all these false stuff for the next 4 years. We won't get anything done. And it'll just be this stalemate in America. That's why I almost don't want him in. But if he is the leading candidate, that's who I'm going to vote for.
Is there any Democrat that you would vote for, consider voting for?
Absolutely not.
What about RFK Jr.?
No.
Who should our first female president be?
Michelle Obama, of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Harambe 2024.
We have the 2024 presidential race coming up, and I wanted to see who you thought your favorite TV characters would vote for. Homer Simpson, who do you think he would vote for?
Donald Trump, all the way.
Vito Corleone.
Whoa. Whoever advances the cause of the Corleone family. Yeah.
Tony Soprano. If Tony Soprano is voting in the 2024 election, who do you think he's voting for?
I'm going to go Ron DeSantis.
Okay. Why do you think that?
Just seems like a Ron DeSantis kind of guy.
Is this a meatball joke that you're trying to make right now? What about Homer Simpson?
Homer would vote for Biden because he's a dope.
Who do you think Napoleon Dynamite would vote for?
That's a good question. I actually don't know.
There's a right answer here.
He's voting for himself or Pedro.
There's a Viking show, I think.
Okay.
Maybe that's Hulu. I don't know.
So in the Viking show, whatever the main character is, Who do you think they would vote for in 2024?
Probably a goat or a dog.
I think we have one of those in office right now. So who do you think Jon Snow would vote for in this upcoming election?
I'm going to say Donald J. Trump.
Why do you think so?
Because Game of Thrones is all about drama, and Trump comes with the drama, baby.
Would you vote for Trump from jail?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, probably. Because at that point, what else do you have to lose?
Okay, would you vote for Trump from a jail cell?
Yeah, baby, I will get Trump out of jail.
Would you vote for Trump in jail?
Oh, yeah.
Based as
The thing that Trump needs to remember is there's another political figure that said, I don't recall very well.
Yeah.
And that's all he's got to say.
Is there like a dream candidate, someone that you think could like save us all?
Yeah, Jesus.
Amen to that.
Sixth and Peabody, our location with EHA Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Glad you're with us. Hot Mic with Hunton and Wirth rolls on across the OutKick network. The 10th Congressional Hearing took place today, taking a look at name, image, likeness, possible federal legislation, and they heard from the NCAA president and other big voices that carry weight across the Power Five conferences for sure, that all are looking to Washington for legislation on rules and governance that the NCAA took a step back from in 2021. Senator Tommy Tuberville has been leading the charge in regards to getting a bill on the floor bipartisan ways. And since Senator, since the last time you joined us, by the way, Coach, it's great to have you back on the show.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Yes.
Thanks for having me.
Since the last time we had you on the show, we've read many articles. We've seen many different voices step forward and say one side for the collectives, one side for the future of college sports as we know it. Specifically, there's now college athletes and others pushing for what essentially amounts to a players' association, trying to get a larger cut of the billions in the media rights contracts that networks are paying out. What do you make of the chatter, and where are we headed based on the discussion that took place today with the hearing?
Well, everything I hear from my colleagues out in the business world and watching college sports, all they say is help. We got to have help. We're losing it. If we're going down fast, we're sinking. It's on a sinking ship. Now, listen, we're all for athletes making money, but this is getting out of hand of what's going on. There's no rules or regulations, and we talked before. We've tried to put something in writing. Joe Manchin and I going through the Commerce Committee with Ted Cruz. It was good to see the Judiciary Committee today have a hearing on it, but those things at the end of the day are useless. All it is TV time for senators and them to be able to send back their constituents. But as good as Charlie Baker is there, the NCAA director, I've had him in my office several times since he's taken the job. He needs help. He wants help. And that's what's been great about him. A lot of these guys come into the NCAA or any job like he's just taken over. They don't look for help. They think they can solve the world's problems, but he knows he needs help. And it's going to have to come from the federal government, because state government, you can't do it. Everybody needs to be on the same page. And that's what our bill is trying to do, is do 4 or 5 different things, get everybody on the same page, all 50 states, and then let the NCAA step in and put the small rules around it. But again, our bill now, Joe Manchin and I's bill, that was put together basically by athletes, coaches, presidents, athletic directors, Charlie Baker. Everybody had a say in it. Now it's in the Commerce Committee. I think they'll make some tweaks to it, and hopefully it gets some momentum. But the Democrats and Chuck Schumer, they could care less about really anything to do with NIL other than making athletes unionized. And that would be a complete disaster.
Senator Tommy Tuberville, our guest on Hot Mic with Hunton and Wirth on OutKick. As far as the disaster, I know that the point of emphasis from the NCAA side is this is out of control. We're going down a steep decline if we continue down this path. The media rights money for the SEC, it was a great deal for the CBS at the time, $10 million in 2007 distributed to schools. And it's $56 million now. It's projected to be $105 million per university in 2029. How can they cry poor if there's going to be some rules and guidelines on the floor that the athlete can get paid and they can also make the same type of money they're making now, even if the athlete ends up getting 50% of the pie if they unionized?
Yeah, well, if they unionize, that'll be a disaster. Can you imagine the week of a game, some team decided they're going to go on strike, and the money stops flowing. But at the end of the day, I think there needs to be some revenue sharing with all this money coming in. The problem you have there is you have probably about 40, 50 teams that would be able to share a decent amount of revenue with all their athletes. You can't just talk about football or basketball. It's got to be every sport, men and women. And you got to be able to pay your bills after that. You got to think about this. There are so many schools. Even I can tell you, I won't bring up names. There's 4 or 5 schools in the SEC that they have built so many facilities, they'll never be able to pay their bills. Okay, they're dead broke. And they're going to have to do all they can to be able to pay this high interest rate on the money that they've borrowed to build stadiums and basketball arenas and all the facilities. They've been trying to keep up with the Joneses, so to speak. So we talk about all this money, and at the end of the day, that money usually is used in a certain degree towards all sports, not just one or two. So hopefully, again, we can get some sense of reality back into what's going on here. Understand that athletes should make money, but the schools, the universities are going to have to find some way to revenue share. And then when it goes down to the lower schools like Division II, Division III, there's not going to be any money there. It's just not money. They don't make any money. And so NCAA, and I've told Charlie Baker this, you have got a hard problem to keep everybody satisfied and keep the federal government out of your business, because ever so often he'll be brought up here asking why he did this and why he did that.
Yeah, and Senator, good point on what's going to be sacrificed here is a lot of lower level college sports that aren't at the highest level that may not have certain programs anymore or scholarship opportunities for young athletes to attend and get that scholarship. So, and I've been saying that for years, that is going to be the unintended consequence of all of this. Programs will be cut in the name of revenue and profit, and that's the sad part of this. I'm curious because whenever we talk about something like this, and I'm sure when you do the same, there's not a lot of nuance online, right? The response is all in one way or the other, that college sports right now is better than it's ever been because players are getting paid, or it's the existential crisis of college sports are over forever because of NIL. You mentioned the possibility and the need of revenue sharing at some point. My question is there a compromise that can be met with what you're doing, with what you see when you're talking to people? Do you feel like a consensus and a compromise can be arranged?
Well, you got to look at the legal aspects of all this. Antitrust laws are going to set in on a lot of this. A lot of these players are also going to be looking at big tax bills down the road. They're going to have to pay agents. They're going to have to pay lawyers, accountants. There's a lot of things that's going to cross the threshold here. What concerns me more, I'm not worried about the athletes that's getting money. I worry about the ones that are not getting any money, a cut of the pie, so to speak. And that's the reason I think we need some revenue sharing. Everybody should get something. But I'm really worried about women's sports and Olympic sports. They're not going to make it. They're not going to have any funding. A lot of this money that normally give by donators out there, that donate money to schools, now it's going to go into collectives. It's going to go into these high-priced players across the country, and you're going to see you're going to see some parity and I've seen it already. You're not going to have schools that are going to be able to stack up running backs and quarterbacks, because that second and third and fourth quarterback's going to want to leave and go somewhere where they can play and make money. And that's probably the best thing out of this, because you're going to have a little bit more parity. But the problem is you're not going to have any parity to the lesser, I'm not going to call them lesser athletes, but the ones down the line, standing in line to be either backups or third teamers trying to work their way up. It's going to be a hard road for them to make it. And then, of course, women's athletes, you're going to be able to cross that off the board if we're not going to be able to find any money for it. It's not going to be there because, as I said earlier, a lot of these schools are broke. They might be making a lot of money, but they're the worst business entrepreneurs in the world, other than politicians, other than Washington, D.C. We can find ways to spend money up here. We print $60,000 a second up here, so we won't run out of money, but they're going to run out of money in some of these universities. They make money, but they know how to blow it also.
Yeah, you're right. It's crazy to think the percentage of the budget that goes to coaches or buyouts and severance packages. It's like 42 to 45% on average in the SEC. That's crazy to me. If they're pointing to their budget as being in crisis, they put it that way. And the same, I'm just trying to be real here. The same people that are talking about the collectives are also adhering to whatever the networks want. The network, have the network, any representatives from the networks been at the hearing yet, or is that scheduled?
Oh, no, you're not going to see the networks here. It's their cash cow.
Right.
And of course, you've got ESPN that's crashing in some areas because of the money that they're having to try to make and cut back on, because Disney's flopping out there because of all the crazy things that they've done. But it's, you can blame a lot of this on athletic directors who didn't have a clue what they're doing. They're trying to keep their job. Why an athletic director is making $1.5 million, $2 million, I do not know. And then they're going out there trying to say, I'm going to sign this coach and I'm going to pay him. He's never won any games before, but I'm going to give him $7 million and $35 million payout. I mean, what in the world are we doing out there? I mean, it's college sports and these athletic directors with the salaries. Now, I made good money. Now, don't get me wrong, but I had built a pedigree and won games with a background. You've got some of these coaches that have never hardly coached and had success, but they're making $6-7 million with huge buyouts. And that's what's caused all this problem, is all the money going to the coaches and very little going to the athletes.
Let me ask you to put your coach's hat on again for us for this one answer. When you see what's happened to the Pac-12, talking about the networks and everything else, and how that conference dissolved, as someone who's been around college football for as long as you have, what are your thoughts on that conference going away?
Well, it's sad. It really is. And, they had a huge problem out there, number one, with being on the West Coast and having late night games. Nobody knew who they were. I mean, it was kind of impossible for any of us in the Central or the Eastern time zone to step and watch a game that started at 10:30 at night and finished at 2 a.m. And it probably wasn't fair to them, but it's just, you got to have a product, you got to be able to sell it. It's probably good that some of them, to get a little bit more airtime to move to the Big Ten, all the way across country. Travel is going to be a killer. It's going to be devastating to a lot of these athletes, not just in the two big sports, basketball and football, but think about the Olympic sports that's going to have to do all the traveling. But it is what it is. They're trying to make money. You can see now, but again, going back to some of these schools, they're trying to buy their way in. Look at USC. They went and got a coach from Oklahoma. He brought almost the entire team with him. And, their defense couldn't play dead in a Western movie. I mean, they just awful. You can't just be an offense. And I'm not throwing stones at USC. It's just they tried to do it a way of just going out and buying yourself a team, and it's impossible. You've got to have some stability. You've got to be bringing local players, and you've got to build your brand. And they had a great brand there. Now they're just known as chunking it all over the field, not tackling anybody, playing touch football. But it's not just them. It's other schools that I see that have really lost their way in terms of their background and what got them to the dance, so to speak. And hopefully a lot of these schools get back to doing what they know best, is recruiting the local athletes, educating kids, and building a team and a team atmosphere.
Senator Tommy Tuberville has been our guest. Coach, it's great to have you on, and I'll say this on the way out here as we're up against it. I'm glad you're leading the charge on this. You've got perspective from the coaching hat and from the lawmaking hat, but also, I mean, you're willing to join our show as one of the leaders and voices. There are not too many that are stepping up in that forum. Charlie Baker made his first public appearance in front of lawmakers today, the first. It was the 10th hearing. Meanwhile, the collectives, I don't know exactly the direction we're going in terms of agents or a players association. They got to figure that out too. All that being said, we appreciate the visit as always, and here's hoping you're more optimistic than you are right now, previous to other conversations we've had as we continue down this path.
Well, thank you. And I'll tell you, you know, and I've always said this, there's a couple of things that's make this country great. I was involved in one for 40 years. That's sports in a high school and college level. I mean, it's made men, young men and young women leaders and believers in themselves and others in our country. And then it's our military, where our young people actually had to learn something, moral values, discipline, all those things. Those two go hand in hand. I just hate to see the direction we're going now, to where it's more about money. And I'm not against them making money, but it breaks my heart to see the direction we're going right now. And hopefully we can figure out a way where they can all make a little money, make it a little bit easier, give them a chance to thrive, but also learn those values that athletics teaches you as you're growing up as a young person.
It's not easy on the leadership in any direction with all of this. Certainly, you certainly feel that, I'm sure. Hey, Coach.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. God bless.
Yep, same to you. Senator Tommy Tuberville, our guest. Stay tuned. A lot more coming. Hot Bite with Hunton and Wirth, hour number 2 straight ahead. We've got headlines plus big NFL discussion. We'll react to what Senator Tuberville just had to say as well. It's all straight ahead right here on the OutKick Network.
What you're experiencing is the bold taste of a Southern legend. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, authentic Tennessee mountain-style spirits. We believe in crafty flavors that were born from tradition but defy expectation. And pioneering a new experience with every sip. Because if it doesn't do this, it ain't this. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Come on. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Taste of a Southern legend.
Just like that, the second hour is here. Hot Mic with Hunton and Wirth on this Tuesday edition across the OutKick network. That means you can join us in multiple ways. If you're listening to this great radio partner, we say thank you.
We're rolling along here.
That's right. As well as on YouTube, on OutKick.com is where you can find us streaming live as well. A number of places.
Just wherever you can find us.
Repost us on social from
wherever
the,
you're watching. Just
opening
take
tweet.
the link to that and just post it.
That's right.
Somewhere.
If you can, yeah, exactly. John McClain's coming up in 20 minutes. NFL headlines galore, including scoring way down through the first 6 weeks of the season compared to the last 2 years. We just look. You have to look very far to see points, but you can't look through this season. Chad, last night, Cowboys, Chargers. There were 20 penalties combined in that game. And this is coming off of a Sunday where there were 25 flags in the Browns 49ers game. There's a lot of yellow on the field and not many points on the board. And I'm not saying that's the sole reason. There's a lot of bad quarterback play. Last night, Justin Herbert played maybe his worst game of his NFL career against the Cowboys defense.
Yeah, it was
just miscues and mental errors, bad coaching.
It was sloppy. I just there's something about games at SoFi Stadium featuring the Chargers and an opposing fan base that takes over the stadium that to me just makes it a weird game to begin with. And last night was kind of one of those weird games that just seemed imbalanced the entire time because the penalties, because the poor play of Justin Herbert. Dak Prescott absolutely dropped one in the bucket on one touchdown pass. That was good to see if you're a Cowboys fan. But last night's game was sloppy, is how I could best describe it.
Yeah, and you mentioned the fan base. It's tough whenever you're the second team in Los Angeles and the Rams had already previously been there.
Yeah, I saw that the crazy lady that the ESPN kept showing, which I was watching videos of her way too long last night, celebrating and just going through the entire gamut of emotions that a fan might go through. There was a lot of speculation that she was a paid actress or that she's not a real fan that was paid to be there and kind of be a gimmick.
Interesting.
And that's not the truth. I saw where busted coverage and someone else tracked her down. It is a real person. She is a real Chargers fan in the flesh. I know there's not many of them since they moved to L.A. that you can find out in the wild. But she is definitely one of them.
There's not a Chargers nation.
No, it's not. It's like finding Sasquatch, finding a Chargers fan. Chargers fans, Arizona Cardinals fans, these are some of the NFL fan bases where it's difficult to spot them out in the open. But we spotted her last night. That was, given the Monday Night Countdown performance that I saw, which was terrible, that was the best thing ESPN did all night was focusing the camera on that lady the entire time. She was awesome.
Chad, there's a former coach that we're not going to find back in the game anytime soon. That's where we lead off with our Scorched Earth headlines today across the OutKick Network. Urban Meyer says you're not going to find him returning to college football. He said this in front of the Knoxville Quarterback Club, admitting it's never been harder. I'm telling you right now, every coach, every player has an agent. Think about that. Remember those days? Maybe a coordinator every once in a while had an agent. There's nothing wrong with agents. They're great. But when I'm the head coach having to deal with a high school player that says, hey, meet with my agent first, am I going to meet with your family? I want to do that because I want to talk about recruiting and other stuff. He also says, I'm good. Don't look for me in college coaching. I never really took a day off. People, when I say that, they scratch their head. I'm like, I never took a day off. I had some health stuff go on. I became addicted to sleeping pills. I was just a maniac worker. So no desire. I think he's more or less describing every college coach right now across the country. You have to be a maniac to put up with the hours that they're doing in recruiting, transfer portal, recruiting your own roster all over again. And then you finally get to game day, and that's your escape. And then you're criticized based on the product on the field, and then it's rinse, repeat. And you try to get some sleep in. You try to get some family time in, which is few and far between. And that's why coaches would love to jump to the NFL compared to the college regiment that coaches are currently going through.
I believe one thing that Urban Meyer said in that entire thing, and that is when he said, "I'm a maniac," or "I was a maniac." I'm serious because I don't know that I could trust anything that he's saying about not coming back.
Okay.
Yeah, if he gets the right opportunity, I think he'll be back in coaching at some point. He'll find the challenge in it and want to do it again. And Urban Meyer was a maniac as a coach. I fully believe him when he says that, and everything you've seen about him shows that. I mean, he had physical breakdowns and mental breakdowns from losing, and that's the stress that a lot of coaches wear on themselves. And he talked about his sleeping pill addiction and all of that. I believe all of that. I believe him that right now he doesn't want to coach and he doesn't like the way things are around college football. I believe all that. Now, a year from now, if the perfect job opens up and he's feeling healthy and refreshed, is he still going to have the same opinion? Maybe. Maybe not. Maybe 2 years from now, he's going to want to coach again. I don't know. Mac Brown got back into coaching. Okay, Mac Brown's 72 years old right now. He's doing fine. North Carolina's undefeated. He seems to be thriving in an NIL era. He's going scorched earth on the NCAA when Tez Walker's not eligible. And they get the kid eligible, and he just lights up Miami in a game in his second game back. So he's doing okay for himself. If Mac Brown can do that, a slightly aging Urban Meyer, who's younger than Mac Brown, can certainly get back in the game and be successful. I agree that it does take a maniac to excel in today's world of high major college football.
Exactly.
The only way you can excel if you're not a maniac is you've got another highly paid maniac or maniacs on your staff. And what I mean by that is it's not just the head coach. There are head coaches that aren't great recruiters. There are head coaches that have maniacs on their staff that are great recruiters. There are coaches that have maniac collectives that work their butts off to make sure that they are in the living rooms or on the DMs or talking to top prospects to know they're going to have money-making opportunities within a certain program. So, yes, you have to be a maniac to some extent to be a head coach in today's college football world. I think you also need a team of maniacs to make it work at this point. And if you get the opportunity to go make a ton of money and coach in the NFL, it's a far better gig. It's just about football. You're not having to deal with nearly as much. Urban Meyer's talking about I'd have to be directed to an agent now. I also kind of laugh because agents are great, for me. Urban Meyer could say that. I'm not saying they're bad about agents. They're terrific. My agent got me a lot of money everywhere I went, but how dare these college kids, think they should have an agent? And I buy some of that. I have long said there are stations in life and pecking orders and chain of command to some extent for a reason. A classic example is, well, the coach does this, why can't the player? Well, it's not always 1-on-1 when it comes to that. Sometimes the answer is because he's the coach and you're the player. The coach tells the player what to do.
Well, the coach also just bolts.
When you don't have that, you have the NBA, where player controls coach in that power dynamic. So there is certain things there. Now, I also believe in a level of mutual respect.
Yes.
And understanding and all of that. And if some kid wants to better his pocketbook through NIL opportunities, well, no coach should stand in the way of that either. But I'm saying that and I'm kind of laughing that Urban Meyer even stopped himself. These kids today have agents. Don't get me wrong, agents are great. My agent, he can just go on.
I don't even laugh about his
a ton
agent.
of money, but those agents are not good agents.
It says the coach who tried to make it work in the NFL, where it's much more the model that he's describing that's wrong. Do I think he gets back into coaching? Chad.
It would have to be in college where he has more control.
Not just where he has more control, where he has had nothing but success.
Yeah.
But you're right about the program. Like, what program is the perfect one for Urban Meyer? He was in the mix for USC prior to Lincoln Riley, and he took his name out of that hat. Ends up in Jacksonville because he was going to the NFL.
He came out and told Bruce Feldman zero interest in Michigan State.
Zero interest,
which is the big open one right now.
So the one where he's actually being mentioned, because here's why he's being mentioned, because there's the resume factor that this program would be looking for if they get rid of their coach, and that's Texas A&M.
Yep.
Because
it's literally the one person they could hire with a better incoming resume than Jimbo Fisher. right? If they made that move.
Really, who has a national championship pedigree right now?
Yeah, I think of Nebraska with Scott Frost. That felt like the last great effort to do something.
Yeah.
The thought was, man, if Scott Frost, the guy who turned UCF into this powerhouse after going 0-13 or 0-12, and then they went undefeated, and he's from Wood River, Nebraska, played for Tom Osborne. If this guy can't get it right, no one can. Well, that didn't work out. It kind of felt that way with Texas A&M. We're going to go for broke. We're going to pay all the money to a guy who's won a natty at Florida State, who's got the Nick Saban lineage, who's done all of those things, and
who came in with a resume that was really good.
It's not working. So the other route to go is you hire an unproven, but if you're going to go with someone who's very proven, that's the one guy you could get that's got a better resume.
You would have to sell the fact that you're paying the buyout to improve what you're doing moving forward. If you go with someone that's unproven, you could have a lower floor than what they have right now, potentially. Like, that's the other thing that you have to look at in determining whether or not Jimbo's out after this year.
Yeah.
You know, and it's going to be an interesting finish to the season for them because the buyout money, and again, it's not if you lose, it's how you lose. With their upcoming schedule, joined Texags this morning, Chad. They have not won a game on the road in 2 years. 2 years yesterday. There's a fear it could be going on another year because their next two on the road are Ole Miss and LSU. So it's intriguing to see if they dump Jimbo, but also if Jimbo Fisher's out, who's next? Well, if you're looking for the national championship pedigree, Chad, there are not many out there. You know, it's tough to find someone that has the same type of resume that Jimbo Fisher did when he took the job. So I think Jimbo Fisher ends up keeping the gig simply based on the fact that there's not a lot of qualified, as far as the bar that I'm assuming they want to meet. There are not many coaches like that.
Are you going to hire Billy Napier? With all due respect to Billy Napier, are you going to hire Billy Napier, a guy from UL Lafayette that's going to, been a head coach at a lower level that you want to elevate to a job like that, pay him decent money, but don't break the bank for him, on top of what you're going to have to pay in a buyout? Or are you going to go big and try to lure an Urban Meyer in and then sell to your fan base that, hey, this guy that won a natty didn't work out. We're going to get this guy who won multiple natties at different schools to come in, and surely he's going to work out. That's the route you got to consider. And at some point with Jimbo Fisher, if it doesn't get better, you just got to say, I think this guy that's a coordinator somewhere else could come into this job with these resources and do better. The guy's just not a very good coach right now for whatever reason.
Or you know what? You could also go with this. One of the Pac-12 head coaches that's really jumped the radar this year. Maybe you get the Pac-12 championship coach to bolt. Again, you're right. It would be someone that's leaving where they are for the bigger, better job. But again, you have to find a maniac.
Yeah,
going back to what Urban was saying.
It's a pretty small sample size, especially for Dickert. But someone's going to get a good coach in Jake Dickert or Jonathan Smith because that's Washington State and Oregon State's current coaches. Good teams. They've been built by those guys. They've sustained some success from their previous coach. Younger guys that don't have a conference. So they are going to be – I know Dickert's already been rumored to be one of the two top names along with Lance Leipold from Kansas for Michigan State. Those guys are going to jump this year. That's a pretty good floor for a job that comes open if you can go snatch one of those guys, I think.
This weekend, the matchup between Penn State and Ohio State, both coaches could jump into the national championship resume for their historic run at wherever they are. At Ohio State with Ryan Day, he's looking to become that next great coach. And then, of course, James Franklin, if he's going to climb the ladder, this is the year to do it at Penn State with the team that they have, the talent around their young quarterback, but also the fact that the Big Ten at the top still trying to figure out the pecking order. It starts this weekend in matchups that are few and far between that really matter. It's these two this weekend. Better coach, Franklin or Day?
I'll tell you who has the better resume. It's James Franklin.
Yes. And I'm saying James Franklin in my answer based on what I saw him do at Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
And what has happened before and after he left.
James Franklin is truly a self-made man in college coaching. Love him or hate him. I mean, he came from not a lot, worked his way into some situations that aren't advantageous. Offensive coordinator at Maryland. Is that a coveted job across college sports? No. Head coach at Vanderbilt? Heck no. It's probably the toughest job in the country, or one of the 3 or 4 toughest jobs in the country. Won back-to-back seasons, 9 wins, back-to-back years at Vanderbilt. He's done a really good job at Penn State. Not great, hasn't been to a playoff or hasn't won a national title or a Big Ten title, but done really well and been consistent at Penn State outside of about a season and a half hiccup. I would take James Franklin over Ryan Day. Ryan Day, did not know this until reading about him a little bit. He was the Gatorade Player of the Year in high school in New Hampshire and played his college football for Chip Kelly at the University of New Hampshire. And he's been attached to Chip Kelly since, until he left the 49ers when Chip Kelly was there and jumped on staff at Ohio State. Almost took the job with Mike Vrabel and the Titans, but then stayed on to be full-time offensive coordinator at Ohio State and eventually got elevated to the job. He inherited a great program. He's kept it running very well. So kudos to Ryan Day for that.
They're always in the mix.
Who's the better coach? Give me James Franklin over Ryan Day.
Both are very similar in their mannerisms. Both can take offense to the slight, even if it's the slightest slight in the media.
Yeah.
They're very self-conscious and self-aware of how they portray themselves versus what may happen when the cameras are off. And sometimes the camera's on and they can't help it and they just unload and unleash. Very similar, but one could be different if they could make the playoff and win. John McClain is next.
The idea that we believe all women is total nonsense. As I told you, my sister, a 25-year prosecutor, made that very clear to not only me, but it's certainly her son, my son, and my nephew Pete. They're all the same age, these boys. But she also warned him of women like this cretin here, this gold diggings clown that decided I'm going to get my hooks into a big league ball player. I mean, look, big league ball players are dumb sometimes, but everybody's dumb sometimes. And Trevor Bauer, a guy named John Heyman, wrote an article which was titled, "Bauer Has Lost His Career and Deservedly So." You'll never hear John Heyman, who by all accounts is a famous baseball writer, apologize. You will never hear any of these fools apologize because our print media is the worst. Now, we're lucky here at OutKick that we have great people. But the national print media, the dudes that are out there, the Greg Doyles of the world, the John Heymans of the world, the Dana Bembaus of the world, this Molly Knight who reported that this woman had a fractured skull. That's right. This idiot Molly Knight works for The Atlantic, and she got fired, I guess, I don't know. Molly Knight is her name, not Wright, Knight. She, honest to God, wrote that this girl got her skull fractured. I looked up Molly Knight. Molly Knight is now basically unemployed, and of course, her Twitter is protected. Of course it is. This lady, Molly Knight, is a ridiculous fraud for printing that. It's all in The Athletic. It's in the affidavit. This woman, of course, went cowardly like all writers do when they're wrong. Ain't nothing wrong with John Heyman or Molly Knight coming out and saying, hey, what can I tell you? I got it wrong. But they can't do it. They can't do it because they're little posses that get a little bit of power and they don't know how to handle it. John Heyman is a little scrawny guy like Doyle that got a little bit of suck as they've gotten older, a little bit. And like politicians, they don't know how to handle it. They're the worst of the absolute worst. I got a guy from Iowa telling me, no, there's some really good writers. Yeah, Armando is. Yeah, the guys that write here are. But we're not bound by the same stupidity of USA Today. We're not governed. You can write freely here and you can write the truth. without fear of retribution as long as it's the truth. Can't do that in mainstream media, or they won't do that in mainstream media. There's got to be a bias. There's got to be an angle. There's got to be a push. If you're a woman, there's got to be a push. If you're black, got to be a push. If you're white, got to be a push. Got to be some kind of bias. I learned the other day, this was pretty funny. I know that if you do not agree with the liberal side, you will be called a name. I got a family member that calls me far right. I'm like, really? I don't even know what that means, but I get it. You're a liberal, so I'm far right. You got to call me a name. The world is insane. Good for Trevor Bauer. Cubs, sign Trevor Bauer. I'll wear a damn Trevor Bauer jersey. And you can kiss my backside on any of them. Any of them.
Show is rolling through today. Senator Tommy Tuberville joined us earlier. Now we talked to a Hall of Famer, John McClain.
Our Hall of Famer.
That's right.
We don't get to talk to a lot of people in a Hall of Fame, much less Pro Football Hall of Famer.
John's in multiple.
John McClain. Yeah, he's not. That's not the only Hall of Fame he's in.
That's right. SportsRadio610.com is where you can find his great work.
Hey, John, we were just having this discussion. I want to ask you, because you are all things Texas and the state of Texas. Texas A&M and Jimbo Fisher. If that team is, let's say, 6-6 or 7-5 at the end of the year, do you think A&M would pull the trigger? They've got the oil money, and oil is a good business right now for those boosters to be in. Would they pull the trigger on Jimbo Fisher?
I think they would. I've heard that there's a big group of alums who have a war chest ready to go to pay him off if they believe he deserves to be fired. Now, Jimbo's very popular with the media. He doesn't get a lot of negative publicity. When they stink it up in a game, he does. But as far as him, there's not a lot of demands in the state that he should be fired. But they've been a disappointment. They had one good season. They're not getting their money's worth. As the Longhorns are going to find out and the Sooners are going to find out, it's a lot harder to win in the SEC than it is the Big 12.
It's been hard for your Astros to win against the Rangers so far. What do you make of the series, and what do you hope to see in Game 3, which is tomorrow?
Lead on my column on sportsradio610.com today will be the Astros have the Rangers right where they want them, on the road, because they have been horrendous at home. They are 1-3 at home in the playoffs. They were 39-52 during regular season. No team that had a losing record during regular season has made the World Series. And the Astros have been, they haven't been awful. They lost 2-0. Pitching was good. Hitting stunk it up in the first game. Framber Valdez, awful in the first inning, and yet it was 5-4. They had chances in the last 3 innings to win the game. Couldn't hit with runners in scoring position. 0 for 6 in that situation. In the second game, 1 for 9 overall. Their bullpen is fantastic if they get a lead. Now, if they win the first game in Arlington, Max Scherzer against Christian Javier, I think the Astros will still have a chance to win it. But if they lose, it's over. And, it's the Rangers that are playing like the experienced playoff team, and the Astros are not. They're playing like chasing bad pitches, making base running blunders, fielding blunders, and the Rangers are just so smooth. It's like they're in the postseason every year. And what Bruce Bochy has done there after they choked the last game of the season and blew the division title to the Astros has been fantastic. Rangers they're built to last.
John McClain with us. You can follow him on social at McClain_on_NFL. He's covered the league for 5 decades and joins us weekly at this time. John, through 6 weeks, offensive output in the league is down. Down so much compared to last year through 6 weeks, 30 more touchdowns, offensive touchdowns, were scored by now in last season. The year prior, nearly 100 more, which is crazy to think about. 502 offensive touchdowns in 2021, and this year 394. And by the way, that's not counting last night. What do you make of the drop-off in that area and what we're seeing right now from quarterback play to just sloppy offense and bad coaching?
First of all, think about where it would be without the Dolphins.
Yeah, that's a great point.
The best offensive team in the league. And I'll tell you where it is because I talked to ex-players about it. I talked to current players about it, coaches. Offensive lines. There are so many offensive lines playing bad because they don't have the talent or they've had injuries across the board. When you can't block people, you can't block for the run, and you can't protect your quarterback, you're in trouble. It's amazing how many games I see where guys have 8 pressures by themselves. And it's all because of the blocking schemes and because of the talent, and also by how little time they get in the offseason in which they can never hit. Every coach will tell you the offseason is more important. The hitting in the offseason that they're no longer able to do is more important for the offensive line than anyone. And when you lose some players, it shows up. And I think that's one reason quarterback play is not as good. Watch any games, guys are under the gun. You got to take a 3-step drop and the ball's got to come out. If you don't, you're in trouble. Everybody would like to have receivers like Tua Tagovailoa. He takes 3 steps, he launches it. It's either deep down the sidelines or slant routes, and it works. But I think it goes back to what you got up front, and you have to make adjustments. And a lot of teams, they don't put a lot of emphasis on the running game like they used to because coming out of colleges, they always throw the ball. So I think there's some reasons for it. I think offenses will adjust the way defenses adjust. But right now, they're just getting manhandled up front.
John, how about Jim Schwartz, the Browns defense, the way they're performing right now, that performance on Sunday, and now the 49ers without Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey both going down against that Browns defense in the game?
Browns have allowed the fewest yards since 1971 at this point in the season, which is amazing. And they're playing really well right now. If the vote for assistant coach of the year was taken, Jim Schwartz would win it hands down. There's a lot of coaches doing a really good job. Detroit, Ben Johnson, their offensive coordinator, Aaron Glenn, their defensive coordinator. I think right now Detroit's the best team in the NFL. Don't know if it'll last. But Schwartzy is doing a tremendous job, and I'm so glad he got another opportunity to run the defense. I don't think it'll lead to another head coaching job, but you never know.
7 offensive touchdowns have been allowed by Cleveland this season in 6 games. That's crazy to consider. What do you Deshaun Watson and the shoulder problem? Is there more to it than just a contusion?
Well, I saw a report last week by Mary Kay Cabot, who's covered them for 30 years. She said he could be out multiple weeks, and Adam Schefter comes back and said he could play in the next game.
Right.
Well, he could, and he could not. So Adam can't be wrong, right? And neither can Mary Kay. They can both, because when you say could or may, you're off the hook for anything. Fact is, he could play this game or he could play 5 games from now. Playing P.J. Walker, who was undefeated for the Houston Roughnecks, the previous iteration of the XFL. And so we're familiar with him here. He had to be elevated to start. They didn't win that game because of them. They won it because of that defense. And if you can't keep the pass rushers off of the quarterback like Myles Garrett, he got to be – if I was voting right now, I'd take him over Micah Parsons, even though the Cowboys push Parsons all the time to be Defensive Player of the Year. But I'm going with Myles Garrett. He's been fantastic, and Schwartz knows how to line him up in that wide 9 and let him get the quarterback.
Speaking of great defense, the Jets put on a show this past weekend as well against Philadelphia, and there's Aaron Rodgers tossing the football around pregame, no crutches. The limp was noticeable to at least the medical experts that it wasn't what they would expect to see at this point. To the point where on the optimistic side he could return in the regular season in December, and not just by the postseason. What do you make of all of this and Rodgers being ahead of schedule, even according to those who know this injury and recovery well to the Achilles?
Postseason. So if Zach Wilson gets them to the postseason, do they bench him for Aaron Rodgers coming off Achilles surgery? I think that'd be pretty stupid. If he's not ready for regular season and they're in the playoffs, just tell him to, pack it up and be ready next year. And that defense is incredible. Running game's really good, but my God, Philadelphia played bad. Jalen Hurts was terrible. I mean, he didn't look like he wanted to be out there, and that's not like Jalen Hurts. But I like Robert Saleh. He was here with the Texans for 6 years. A lot of people were ripping him, saying he's more about his speeches than he is about coaching. And right now, people are feeling really good about him in New York and New Jersey.
John, speaking of the Texans, one of the surprise teams across the NFL so far this season, C.J. Stroud has been terrific. They're right there for the AFC South. How much AFC South champion talk is there right now in Houston with this team when you look around the division?
Only thing I've heard this week, and we've talked about it on two of my shows today, one podcast and one in studio, of could they make the playoffs? Now, they play Jacksonville here on November 26th. They pounded the Jaguars in Jacksonville, which they usually do. They won 10 of the last 11 against them, 6 in a row on the road. And we were going over the schedule game by game, and I have them losing to that when I have them splitting with the Titans. And people say, well, how can you have them splitting with the Titans when the Titans are in such bad shape offensively? And I said, well, I'm giving Mike Vrabel one of those wins. And so we recalibrated my prediction before the season. They win 6 games, and I got them going 9-8, which would, I think, Jacksonville will win the division, and they'd be in the wild card running. And boy, the last time they were 3-3 was the last time they won the division. That was 2019. People are having a lot of fun here right now. D'Amico Ryans, C.J. Stroud. They should have beaten Atlanta last week, and the defense couldn't make a stop in the last series, and they lost on a field goal with no time left. So it's amazing to me what coaching can do, what attitude can do, because this team has been pathetic. Won 3 games last year. Now they've won 3 bye week. They go to Carolina, Bryce Young versus C.J. Stroud. Then they host Tampa. The schedule, 2 toughest games at Cincinnati and at the Jets, and we all put them down for automatic losses when Aaron Rodgers is there, and I still have them losing both those games, but it's fun. People aren't talking about winning the division. They're just talking about sniffing the playoffs.
And speaking of schedules, Jacksonville plays on Thursday night. Trevor Lawrence has a knee injury. He's day-to-day with a short week against the Saints. And then following Thursday night for Jacksonville, who leads the AFC South, they will follow that up with a schedule that includes the Steelers and the 49ers. It's the opposite of what the Texans are about to face.
It's what you get when you face the first place schedule. Texans used to do that all the time because they won the division. And now they're getting last place schedule. And they're playing the NFC South, plus the AFC South's not any good anyway either. So you should be able to capitalize. Like I think Detroit's the best team, and one of the reasons is they play in a terrible division, the NFC North. And that schedule and injuries have more to do with the outcome of a season than talent, because every team has the injuries. It's really the one that keeps their quarterback healthy.
John, while we're talking schedules, the Super Bowl schedule, host city schedule, is laid out for the next 3 years. We know that. What do you make of Goodell in the latest discussion over in London as they wrap up the series there this past weekend, that there has at least been discussion, and they will continue to talk about the potential of hosting the Super Bowl in London? Does that mean if and when they get a division there, or they get 1 or 2 teams there? Because the host city is and will be teams that are located currently in an NFL market. Would that be the way they would go about doing this, or would they just consider a London an NFL market because there are multiple games there now every year?
No, they would never play a Super Bowl over there with the current setup, because the NFL is so popular. You want to cut into that popularity. You take the biggest game and you give it to a bunch of fans in England. And then they think, well, Americans will fly over there. And sure, a lot of them would, but I just don't see it happening because it would be universal negativity. And there's not much the NFL does that brings them universal negativity. There's a lot of talk that they need to have two teams over there. And one would play in Tottenham. The other one might be at Wembley. It might be in Germany. Germany is a great market. And they're going to branch out and play more games in more countries. And the reason is spreading the brand, but mainly it's about gambling because they've been gambling a lot longer than we have. And that's going to help them make an estimated $100 billion over the next 5 to 10 years. But he can float that out there all he wants, and everybody that's around him would say, Roger, pump the brakes, and he would.
John, final thing for you on the way out. We've got 30 seconds. We've got Eagles and Dolphins on Sunday Night Football. Are we going to see Philadelphia play their best here against the best offense going in Miami?
They haven't done it yet. I don't think this is going to be the game for them to do it. They'll probably beat up on Little Sisters of the Poor at some point and say we're back. I'm sticking with the Dolphins. They are just so much fun to watch. And who doesn't love Mike McDaniel?
Yeah, that's right. John, who doesn't love John McClain? Always love having you on the show, John. Thank you as always. Good luck to your Astros tomorrow.
Guys, thank you very much. They certainly need it.
SportsRadio610.com.
Always
to read
Hall of
the
Fame
great
in our
work.
book, John.
That's right. That's
always.
Right. At McClain_on_NFL on social. Chad, coming up, J.J. McCarthy and the discussion that he could wrap up things at Michigan by having the greatest season and
being the greatest Michigan quarterback of all
ever.
time, possibly.
Yeah, let's discuss that and much more straight ahead right here on OutKick.
I'm here at the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix, but that's not the only big race that's on people's minds. Let's go talk about it.
There's no way Biden can win again. There's just no way. Even the people that voted for him because they didn't like Trump now at least have to see like senile, not all there. Probably won't be alive for 4 more years.
Are you a Trump guy? Or are you a DeSantis guy? Or someone else?
I don't like any of them.
Who's your dream candidate? Who would you want to run?
Myself. I think the best candidates probably are smart enough not to run.
I just hope there's somebody that's young enough to care about the country instead of their politics.
My fear is they get Gavin Newsom from California. And I think it would be the new cool vote for the younger people, and that's what I don't like.
Who do you think on the Republican side would be able to take on Gavin Newsom?
Great question. As a Republican registered, I love what Trump's body of work did, but they're just out to get him and destroy him, and we won't get things done, which is crappy for me to say. I thought DeSantis was going to be the guy. Trump only has 4 years left. He cannot fix everything that just happened in 4 years. And he's going to be battling indictments and all these false stuff for the next 4 years. We won't get anything done. And it'll just be the stalemate in America. That's why I almost don't want him in. But if he is the leading candidate, that's who I'm going to vote for.
Is there any Democrat that you would vote for, consider voting for?
Absolutely not.
What about RFK Jr.?
No.
Who should our first female president be?
Michelle Obama, of course. Okay. Yeah.
I'm going to go with Harambe 2024.
We have the 2024 presidential race coming up, and I wanted to see who you thought your favorite TV characters would vote for. Homer Simpson, who do you think he would vote for?
Donald Trump, all the way.
Vito Corleone.
Whoa. Whoever advances the cause of the Corleone family. Yeah.
Tony Soprano. If Tony Soprano is voting in the 2024 election, who do you think he's voting for?
I'm going to go Ron DeSantis.
Okay. Why do you think that?
Just seems like a Ron DeSantis kind of guy.
Is this a meatball joke that you're trying to make right now? What about Homer Simpson?
Homer would vote for Biden because he's a dope.
Who do you think Napoleon Dynamite would vote for?
That's a good question. I actually don't know.
There's a right answer here.
He's voting for himself or Pedro.
There's a Viking show, I think.
Okay.
Maybe that's Hulu. I don't know.
So in the Viking show, whatever the main character is, who do you think they would vote for in 2024?
Probably a goat or a dog.
I think we have one of those in office right now. So who do you think Jon Snow would vote for in this upcoming election?
I'm going to say Donald J. Trump.
Why do you think so?
Because Game of Thrones is all about drama, and Trump comes with the drama, baby.
Would you vote for Trump from jail?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, probably. Because at that point, what else do you have to lose?
Okay, would you vote for Trump from a jail cell?
Hell yeah, baby. I will get Trump out of jail.
Would you vote for Trump in jail?
Oh, yeah.
Based as
The thing that Trump needs to remember is there's another political figure that said, I don't recall very well. Yeah. And that's all he's got to say.
Is there like a dream candidate, someone that you think could like save us all?
Yeah, Jesus.
Amen to that.
Coming up in about 5 minutes, we hop on the bus, or maybe we hop off the bus. We've got some big topics.
It's our choice, right?
It's our choice.
We have the decision to make.
And it's our buy or sell. We've got that coming up here on Hot Mic. Chad, J.J. McCarthy has been red hot this season for Michigan. And the offense, defense, they're dominant. The Wolverines are dominant. McCarthy's numbers right now are insane. They're really good. And saying that, they're not Michael Penix Jr. good, but J.J. McCarthy's second right now in the Heisman odds for what is 10-1 odds, I believe, for him. That's the next jump between Penix Jr. and the other quarterbacks. McCarthy's leading that, and not only that, he's leading discussion that he could end his career as the greatest Michigan quarterback of all time.
Yeah, and it's, you start to think about Michigan quarterbacks, and there's obviously one that comes to mind immediately that happens to be the greatest quarterback in the history of the game writ large, and that is Tom Brady.
Right.
But Tom Brady didn't win to any great extent at Michigan, did not win a national championship. Jim Harbaugh, the current coach, another one that comes to mind, did not win a national championship. Correct me if I'm wrong, Chad Henne did not come close. Brian Griese was the quarterback when they split the national title in '97 with Nebraska. They had a split national title. I believe Brian Griese was the quarterback on that team, but nobody considers Brian Griese, Bob's son, to be the greatest Michigan quarterback of all time. This stat that Jim Harbaugh brought out when talking about this and making his sales pitch as J.J. McCarthy maybe eventually being the greatest Michigan quarterback of all time, he said the statistic that speaks to it most is the amount of drives that ended with a score. He's had 213 drives as a starting quarterback. Michigan has scored on 130 of those drives.
Wow.
96 have been touchdowns, 34 field goals. That's 61% of every drive where he's touched the football, the Wolverines have scored. That's pretty impressive. And that's a cool way for Jim Harbaugh to break it down with that one statistic about his effectiveness.
Now, what he's not saying is how do they score those on those drives? This has been a Michigan team that goes through the run, through the offensive line, and McCarthy's a part of that in the run game too. Not known for the savvy throwing the football, although he can spin it, and he's been spinning it here this season where, he's completed 75% of his passes so far, and that's, he's going to get the Heisman recognition, but there's more recognition than just being a finalist. He has also been leading Michigan to the finals, to the Final Four. And that's also directly on any positions, directly on the QB. Not many great college football quarterbacks. He could be the greatest at Michigan. And that's, he's in the discussion. And also, and you brought this up too. We had a text chain going with our buddy Catfish Jake. Schedule is what it is. But Georgia's schedule has also been light.
Yep.
And Georgia, that 37-20 was the final score against Vanderbilt, and that game was sloppy, and they lose Brock Bowers, and They're not handling every opponent the way Michigan's handling.
I think
every opponent.
Auburn's one of the bottom 4 or 5 teams in the SEC, and they struggled. Georgia struggled to win on the road at Auburn. Michigan's
South
been
Carolina.
far more impressive. Now, just by default, Georgia's got this long winning streak, and they've won the last 2 national titles. So, they are the champs until proven otherwise.
But they're the dominant
But if you ask me
team in
who's
force.
looked the best and the most dominant, it's been Michigan, even with a light schedule so far. And just such high praise from Jim Harbaugh, who's a great quarterback at Michigan and the head coach, to single out this guy and say, hey, guys, I don't know if you're following this, but J.J. McCarthy just might be the greatest quarterback in Michigan history. When you look at him statistically and the way Michigan is winning right now, pretty impressive.
As far as viewership numbers are concerned, Michigan, not many have watched Michigan's games.
And rightfully so.
Rightfully so. I have made the mistake, Chad, of assuming that Michael Penix Jr. Has the edge over Bo Nix based on winning the game against Oregon last week for more national, a prominent television exposure. And that's not going to happen, at least not this week. Colorado's playing UCLA coming up, and 2 weeks, I believe?
It's the 28th, so a week from Saturday.
So after the bye week. And Washington's game with the television assignments came out. Colorado is going to be playing on ABC in primetime, in that primetime window, 7:30, I believe, for them. And meanwhile, you've got Washington taking on Stanford, and that's headed to FS1. Oregon and Utah, that'll be your afternoon kickoff on Fox. And Washington, top team in the conference, is headed to FS1 to take on Stanford. I understand the matchups here, but what I haven't really looked at, what have the numbers been like when Washington is on the screen in a primetime slot versus when Dion is on the screen in Colorado, and the network's just simply looking at the numbers and eyeballs and thinking, we're going to play back into what was working instead of seeing a drop-off. I'm assuming that, because if Washington was pulling that, we would see Washington in a window, just like we saw Colorado play Colorado State, or any of the teams that normally would not be featured with both game day and big noon kickoff on campus. You know?
It's the old chicken and the egg argument here. Is Colorado important and drawing eyeballs because everyone would have cared about Colorado no matter what? Or has the public and the media influenced brains to want to pay attention to Colorado? And by putting them in slots like this, they're almost programming the sporting public to care about Colorado and want to see more, right?
Yeah, they're programming the big fight against UCLA.
I'll fully confess here. I'd rather watch Colorado UCLA than Washington Stanford. Stanford's not good.
No.
Granted, they just beat Colorado on the road, but they're not good. That's a terrible loss for Colorado. And I'm still intrigued by Deion Sanders. And, oh, by the way, Chip Kelly and UCLA are top 25.
Right.
And that may be a game they need to win to get to a bowl game. So if you're asking me to pick, and I love Washington, I love this story, I, as a viewer, as a consumer of college football, I'm more apt to watch Colorado UCLA than Washington Stanford. If I'm saying that, if I'm the network, if I'm Fox, I'm putting Washington Stanford on FS1 and taking Colorado UCLA on the network. I think this is a pretty easy decision.
It's an easy
this
decision.
This to me is not controversial in the least.
Well, but it's easy to promote as well. They're going to build this up through Dion and primetime. They'll do the talking. They'll do the talking, and the programming will take place in the mentality of the viewing public. Unlike it, I mean, the biggest matchup last weekend, Washington and Oregon, you could look at the numbers there. They're going to be good, but are they going to be consistent pulling numbers for either program?
If it was Washington and USC, then okay, we have the argument here.
And that game will be
It's
big.
Washington against one of the cellar dwellers in the Pac-12.
And you're right. And it was the cellar dweller that beat Colorado.
Yeah, this is...
And it's an easy decision because people have been programmed to watch Colorado, even though they could be one of the cellar dwellers in the conference when it's all said and done. There are a lot of toss-up games that we went through yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, look, if I'm ABC or the Pac-12, whoever's making this decision, Yeah, I want the primetime window for primetime and not Washington, Stanford. I totally get it. Is it right? I don't know. Is it fair? Probably not. But that's what people want to tune into, including me. That's the game I'm more likely to watch.
Well, and I just look at it from the Heisman perspective, too, because it is a financial windfall for who wins that trophy for life. And
you get to be in Heisman House trophies, Hutton.
That's right. And the voters
get that Nissan
typically
money.
are watching guys for about 1, 2, maybe 3 games if you're lucky, if you're in the Pac-12 especially. Not many voters are going to be watching Michael Penix Jr., even though he's got the landslide victory right now. I'm just throwing it out there. It ends up being Shador who's going to be a finalist because everyone's been watching him.
Yeah, that's not going to happen now.
Well, it depends.
Not with their record.
Well, it depends if they put a beat down on UCLA in primetime when people are watching.
I think J.J. McCarthy's going to have something to say about it when he plays Ohio State.
They could have 4 finalists.
Yep.
Let's head over. Davey Hudson, it's time to go on the bus or hop off the bus and buy or sell here on Hot Mic.
Yeah, guys, before we get on the bus, just to start for our first destination, a conversation we could eventually have down the line is looking at the greatest quarterback in terms of college and NFL, or just looking at it for when they came into the national spotlight, because Tom Brady didn't really do anything in college.
Right.
And so it kind of goes back to, well, who was a quarterback that won irregardless of their coach? It wasn't Brady at Michigan. It wasn't Brady until he was able to get out of Belichick's shadow and go to Tampa. So I think that might just be a conversation to have on a rainy day at some
That's
point.
cool.
But
file it away.
I like it.
We're on the bus with that.
On the bus,
on
and
the
off
bus,
the bus.
that topic.
We're going to start in Los Angeles. And, Tommy Tuberville, Senator, Coach, made this comment about that USC team earlier, but Lincoln Riley looks to make the jump to the NFL after this season.
I don't think so.
I'm off the bus on that.
I'm off the bus because, USC did everything possible to bring him there, including setting him up with what was it, Chad, a $17, $20 million home?
He's got like an old Hollywood mansion in
villa.
Malibu.
Yes. I'm not leaving that to, head to some of the places that'll be open potentially.
Cleveland?
Chicago,
maybe
where you're coaching your number one overall pick, Caleb Williams.
Well, that could be possible if it's number 1 overall pick.
Can I jump in here?
Go ahead. You think the dad would allow that
the
to happen?
The NFL doesn't want Lincoln Riley. I don't see it the other way. What has Lincoln Riley done?
Well, Davey's
other
onto
than
something.
been a great cultivator of quarterbacks.
What did Cliff Kingsbury do to get an NFL gig?
Well, Cliff Kingsbury's better looking than Lincoln Riley. We all know that. That's why he got the job, because of his looks.
There's a lot of ugly people that get what they want.
Lincoln Riley's a very good-looking man,
money.
too. He's very handsome, but Cliff Kingsbury's on another level. That's why he got the job. The Ryan Day thing with Justin Fields was, okay, he's going to go coach his guy. I know where we're going with this. He's going to coach Caleb Williams in the NFL. If we have this dream fairy scenario where, he's been blessed to go from Oklahoma with Caleb Williams to USC to the NFL, and it's like an AAU coach moving up in age classifications with a quarterback, fine. Outside of that, I don't know why an NFL team would want him. I really don't.
Owners make stupid decisions every single year with really bad hires. Top of the draft rebuild. I'm not saying that he should. I don't think it would work out. I'm off the bus with this as well. I think he's staying at USC.
USC going to the Big Ten, current Chicago president, former Big Ten commissioner Kevin Warren. I'm just saying some of these pieces fit together.
Okay, hold on.
So the biggest piece is
that's
the
a bridge
mansion
too
and the
far.
lifestyle.
Kevin Warren, who was in the Big Ten, and Lincoln
he's a
Riley,
deal
who
maker.
will be in the Big Ten with a different commissioner. That's the connection.
No, he made the deal with Kevin Warren.
They knew it was happening. They talked with the
Do you
ADs
think
at
Lincoln
USC
Riley
beforehand.
is on the phone with Kevin Warren when they're making that deal and going, hey, I am the representative for the University of Southern California here, and we are going to make this move? They have no discussions with each other at all. He coaches the football team and the program, and people above him make decisions like that to go to the Big Ten. That has nothing to do with it. No.
I'll reach out to my sources.
Off
All
the
right.
bus.
Next up, we're going across the country, Athens, Georgia, talking about a team that's actually done well in college football over the last couple of years with the Bulldogs, but Georgia can win the SEC championship without Brock Bowers.
In this SEC, yes.
Yep. On the bus.
On the bus.
Squarely on the bus,
they
riding
could
in
be
the
unbeaten
front
going
seat.
to Atlanta. Absolutely. They could also drop a game or two.
Yep.
I mean, this is a strange top tier of the SEC. It's still above the mid-tier teams if we're seeing teams win one, lose one. But, Chad, Georgia's going to be right there because of the talent elsewhere, and which is still better, in some cases far better than their schedule.
If there was ever a scenario for something truly crazy to happen, like, I don't know, Missouri winning the SEC, this is the year for that to happen. Do I think that'll happen? No. But I think this is the year for it to happen. Bottom line is Georgia's undefeated. And I don't think Brock Bowers is a huge loss, but because of their schedule, I believe without Brock Bowers, even if he doesn't play in any of the other regular season games, they're going to get to the SEC championship game. And as long as they do that, they got a chance.
By the way, Lincoln Riley, over the duration of his contract at USC, $110 million. You've got Sean Payton making $18 million, Belichick making $20. That's an estimate. Lincoln Riley's not leaving that.
Didn't Davey also ask about Mike Tomlin getting fired? Remember Mike Tomlin who wouldn't take the USC job? Maybe that's the swap Davey's looking for. Maybe it's Lincoln Riley and the Steelers a much better job.
Michael McHenry's next.
What you're experiencing is the bold taste of a Southern legend. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, authentic Tennessee mountain-style spirits. We believe in crafting flavors that were born from tradition but defy expectation, and pioneering a new experience with every sip. Because if it doesn't do this, it ain't this. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey.
Welcome into OutKick the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader. I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life. ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
We live in a land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
When Leah Thomas walked in that first day, it got silent, and every girl was uncomfortable.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the #1 overall pick.
Is it fair for people to be upset with Barbie?
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna live. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose. I mean, what have you seen firsthand of how this has affected you in the plant and your fellow employees? Under Joe Biden, the Taliban has retaken Afghanistan. Putin has invaded Ukraine. So if there was ever a time for freaking aliens to inhabit and conquer Earth, now would be that time.
We've seen coaches throw water bottles. We've seen coaches act like idiots. We've seen coaches slap other coaches. But I think if you're involved in carjacking, you're inherently a rotten human. The level of stupid that sometimes gets on our YouTube chat just gives me a headache. You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it. The American people are being cheated. We, ladies and gentlemen, are being cheated.
There's no doubt in my mind he could have caught the ball in his back pocket if he'd been running. Blowing a lead and losing a game is 100 times more lasting and painful in some clubhouses than losing the game 15-0. If I had to start a list in the last 10 years of horrible underachievers, he's at the top.
We were directly impacted by the whole Leah Thomas thing, and we were able to see you guys on the ground with your signs supporting. That was huge.
They were saying, oh, it's only 1 or 2. That's rubbish, and we all know that's rubbish. Once those trans-identifying males were able to succeed, it just encouraged others.
Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Bold taste of a Southern legend.
Just like that, final hours here for this Tuesday edition. Hot Mike with Hunton and Wirth across the OutKick Network. Glad you're with us, including streaming live, multiple places, live on YouTube. You can join Chad in the chat, as well as you could go back to the OutKick account on X and find the last post with the link today. And
repost it.
And repost it for us. That's right. As many times as you would like. And as well as live at OutKick.com now. So you can join us at those three places and more, as well as listen on this great radio network and platform. We welcome in Michael McHenry to the show to dive into the ALCS, NLCS, and plenty of playoff discussion in Major League Baseball. The Fort joins us. What's up, man?
I was just sharing the link like you told me to.
There we go. Thank you.
Yeah.
Do it
I
again.
feel like you're bossing me around a little bit.
Do it again. Do it twice if you'd like.
They always called Michael McHenry a very coachable player in his years in Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
So he's never been accused of not being coachable. And he's showing that once again by reposting that tweet. Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
Hey, no problem. Maybe a little over coachable at times, but I do like being the monkey in the middle right now. I'm enjoying this.
Yeah, that's right.
That's good.
The former major leaguer and now Major League analyst joining us here on the show. So we've got Bryce Harper leading the way for the Phillies. 1-0 lead now for Philadelphia. Meanwhile, 2 games already in the books for Texas, the Rangers over the Astros. Let's start in the AL. What do you make of the Rangers and the dominant performances that we've seen and the way that they found to get outs when it was much needed late in games?
Yeah, everybody was worried about that bullpen. I mean, that bullpen's been stretched thin. It's not really that good. It's not a playoff type bullpen when you look at the other teams, but you have Bochy. You have a lot of guys that have been there, done that. I mean, you look at the guy that pitched last night. He was phenomenal once again, and Valdi just so good. And he seems to step his game up on a whole nother level when he's in that playoff atmosphere. And now, lo and behold, who do we have starting game 3 going back to Texas? Mad Max, the 2-eyed monster, is going to come back, whether he's good or not. I think the fan base is going to get around that so much. And that's old school baseball. You're not going to see that a lot of places. You wouldn't see that in Tampa. You probably wouldn't see that in Pittsburgh unless they're fighting for their life. This guy's coming in when they're up 2-0. That says what this means. Guys want to win. They want to win now. And when a guy of his caliber comes back from the injury he had, it's remarkable.
It's also remarkable to me. You know, I'd read and heard about Astros, their struggles at home. I didn't realize they were sub 500 at home for the season. And now losing both the 2 games in Houston to start this series, that's pretty crazy when you think about a team with that level of success. 7th straight year going to the ALCS for the Astros and a losing record at home throughout the regular season. It's pretty rare.
Yeah, I'm sure you guys have heard, don't take anything for granted. I mean, these guys have been there over and over again, time and time again, and you almost wonder, are they taking it for granted? I mean, if nothing else, if I'm playing against Texas, in-state rival, I fought them all year just to prove that we are the best team in one state, the biggest state in the United States, I believe. I'm not sure. I'm not very good at geography, but when you look at that, there's bragging rights there, and it's going to carry over into next year because a lot of these guys are back. So the fact that they're down 0-2, their backs are against the wall, but Derek Jeter said it the other day on Fox, you do not want to bet against this team. And he remembered a time when he was up 3-0 and they ended up losing. But not many teams have ever been able to come back when it's 0-2 at home because that advantage is so big and so vast. But for the Astros, it hasn't been. So it's kind of kooky to me. But at the end of the day, they also have a legendary manager that's probably going to get them going. And they have a lot of guys that have been there. Let's see if they can bounce back. I did not like that Valdez interview. If you didn't see it, I just missed a pitch here, pitch there. He didn't really take ownership. He didn't really take that mentality that you should take as a leader, a guy that's a frontline starter. He kind of just passed the buck, and I don't like that at all.
Nick Castellanos is the new Mr. October. 5 home runs in 3 games for the Phillies. And the more I watch this team and see stories like that, this feels like Destiny's Child, and I'm not talking about Beyonce with this Phillies team, possibly going on a march
Maybe they could play
through the World Series. Yeah. What do you think about this group?
Well, you have to clarify what does that mean, Destiny's Child? I mean, I know you like to dance to them, in the bathroom.
Yeah, I'm
getting
saying
ready,
they are the child of destiny this year that has been chosen to get hot at the right time. And I'm talking about from like June 15th on, right? They've been the hottest team in baseball. I think since mid-June. They started terribly, and they've been incredible since. And they've carried that momentum throughout. So is this Destiny's team this postseason?
I believe it is. But with that being said, the way the Diamondbacks have played, how gritty they are, and how they can beat you in a lot of different ways. If Kelly comes out and pitches really, really well, which is going to be extremely tough in Philadelphia, he already made a huge mistake by saying, oh, yeah, it couldn't be any worse than the World Baseball Classic when I was pitching against Venezuela. Come on. You don't say those things. You're going into Philadelphia. You just literally opened up Pandora's box. Philly's going to go absolutely bonkers. I guarantee you there's some drums there. They're going to go ham on Kelly tonight, and he's going to realize he made a mistake by saying that.
Speaking of halftime shows, Bryce Harper looks like a guy who could absolutely shred on guitar on stage somewhere if the Phillies were, in fact, a band. Did you like the 31st birthday celebration on the home run last night where he put the 31 up and blew the candles out as he was crossing home plate?
Yeah, and they don't lose when he homers. I mean, they're 10-0 in his career. When he homers, they do not lose. And he is just in some type of place. I mean, you think about him coming back, learning a new position at first base, which is not easy at all. I mean, he's been really a liability when it comes to defense and right field because he's played through so many different injuries. That's the advantage of signing a guy like Harper. He's going to fight. He's going to claw. He's going to play any opportunity he has, whether there's a muscle or a tendon hanging off of him, he's going to go out there. And that's what he did this year. He came back from Tommy John way faster than any human being should. He did it well. His power was down. It took off at the end, had a huge year. I'm telling you right now, if he was, healthy from day one, he probably would have been right in that MVP race with Acuna and Mookie Betts because he's right in the middle of his prime. It seems like he really understands who he is. He's down to earth, and he's just taking off, and the guys around him are playing really well. By the way, Castellanos has actually taken that power of Scooby-Doo back from the All-Star break. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah.
That's why he's playing so well. He had his Scooby snacks.
The Rangers claim to be taking the power of Creed in the clubhouse, listening to Creed as to giving them the support and the energy they need to go and perform well. Did you have a music playlist, or did the teams you're a part of ever have a song or a band that you absolutely had to hear in the clubhouse prior to a game?
Can you take us higher right now?
Yeah. Arms wide open.
Absolutely. I can literally take you almost year by year, but
tell me it was Creed one of those years. Please tell me it was Creed at least one of those years.
The story would be too good if it was.
No.
It's not. It's Journey. Don't Stop Believing.
It's good.
Pittsburgh, 2013. One of my favorites was Africa, Toto. We're the best AA team in all of baseball. It was magical. And then, when I was in Tampa Bay, it became Hammer Time by Lecrae. I don't know how it happened. We got a Christian rapper thrown in there, and it's because we just punched everybody out. I think we're 5th all time, even in Major League Baseball, still today.
Is that a cover of MC Hammer, or is this different Hammer Time?
Not at all.
I hear Hammer Time, I think MC Hammer and Parachute Pants. This is something different?
Once again, that should be maybe your Halloween costume, and I'd love to see you dance.
Yep.
Yeah, please.
Jars of Clay was another season for you.
Kurt
Franklin?
Franklin?
Of course. And Mercy Me, Kurt Franklin. Absolutely. Yeah. No, we were all over the place. Kanye West actually made it one year in the Arizona Fall League. So I will say Kanye West won us a championship.
Michael McHenry, our guest, the Fort, running through the playoffs with us. So the run that the Rangers have been on, 7 straight games now to open the postseason. You've got the Phillies who are just mashing, they're raking at the plate. In the clubhouse, don't you kind of know if you're on a run like that? This feels like a midsummer type run where you're just in a groove. Don't you know that you're winning the series?
Yeah, I feel like you have that kind of knack when you're rolling. You just have that feeling like, hey, nothing can stop us, nothing can beat us. And it's almost after that first inning. If you look at the season in total, about 53% of the teams that scored first ended up winning. Right now in the postseason, it's almost 65%. So when you get off to a good start, whether it's you're at home, you have a really good starter in Wheeler who went out again and punched 8 tickets and threw 6 innings. Outstanding outing. If you have that again from the Phillies starter and he comes out and just puts his foot down early on, and then they score early in the ball game, and there's an early home run, you're going to see that Arizona Diamondback team deflate. You're going to see Houston deflate in Texas when they are going absolutely bonkers, especially with that closed dome there. I'm assuming they're going to try to close it. MLB may open it, but when you close those places, it gets so loud. It's like an airplane hangar. If you've ever yelled in an airplane hangar, it echoes. These places get absolutely wild.
And the opposite clubhouse, what's it like when you know the opposition, they're not going to be stopped? They're on their roll.
Yeah, I think with the younger clubhouse in Arizona, that they're probably a little bit of a panic, in that clubhouse. When you look at all the young players and who they rely on, I mean, you look at their best player, he's a rookie. I mean, Corbin's been phenomenal this postseason. I believe I wrote down his stats, 381. He's got, 6 walks, 8 hits. He's been stealing base, been doing a little bit of everything. But if he doesn't go, they don't go. It seems like they've got to figure out a way for another guy to step up to slow the game down, but they have a really good staff. Jeff Bannister's one of my favorite people in baseball. There's some really good stuff out there on him and how he's been a huge part of this. And he said, embrace the chaos. When I was a Pirate, that's kind of their motto now. So I think they're okay, but they're definitely, their backs against the wall. Anxiety's up, stress is up. And if you're winning, it feels like nothing can go wrong until it does. And then that's when you don't want it to snowball.
So Trevor May of the A's announces his retirement on Twitch. And in that announcement, he goes off on John Fisher, the owner of the A's. He calls him a dork. He tells him he says, sell the team, dork. He says there are plenty of people who actually care about the game and care about things they own. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of people that have lost their job in Oakland. You haven't said anything or care at all about it. I get that you're a billionaire, but it doesn't impress anyone because you inherited mommy and daddy's money and have never done anything with your life. I mean, went all in and probably said a lot of the same things that pretty much everyone who's ever been affiliated with the Oakland version of the A's would like to say about him.
Yeah, it's bold. I mean, that's something that can push you out of the game for life. So he had to really believe it. He knew what he was doing. He kind of took a huge step forward to do something that probably a lot of players have wanted to do and kind of have their piece, have their moment where they can let it all kind of hang out there. I mean, I've had some moments where, I wanted to absolutely erupt on the front office, a GM, an owner, because of all the lies that you hear sometimes. You hear one thing and it's just not the truth. And really, if you just hit me straight, I'm fine. I think a lot of players feel that way, and they just want to understand where it's going. And think about the fan. You have even more separation from that ownership group. They don't get anything. They get the political answer. They don't get much of anything. I think if these owners were more transparent, if MLB was more transparent, even MLBPA was more transparent of what they're trying to do with the game, where it's trying to go, and really have maybe some town halls and talk to these fans of what matters, you wouldn't have a guy like May coming out who's a nice guy. He's not going to come out and say those things, but obviously there is something emotionally wrecking him right now for him to even want to do that, because that's a bold move that could push him out of the game, because those owners stick together. And I'm sure Manfred's going to make sure that, he's maybe punished in some way if he wants to try to get in the game. But if I'm another ownership group, I'm looking at a guy like that, like, hey, he cares about the fans. He cares about the city. He cares about the players around him. Maybe he's a good hire. I need to go talk to this guy, because everybody has a side of their story. I'm sure the owner does too. But the reality of it is they don't share it. And if you don't share it, the assumption's always going to be there.
Ford, I've got 2 quick ones, about a minute each on these. First, Bryce Harper wants to see and hopes to see that MLB players could participate in the Olympic Games in 2028. Do you think MLB allows it? And if not, why not?
Let's go. Hockey puts it on hold. Let's go. We need a gold medal. And the reason I say that, I'm wearing my hat. I wear it every single day. The team that I went and tried to help maybe win a gold medal ended up winning bronze. The United States of America, when it comes to baseball, is falling the wrong direction. You have the Dominican Republic that's picking up. You have Venezuela. But those aren't the teams that are really growing. You look at what Korea is doing, South Korea, China, and Japan. They're taking off. And if we don't represent our country, they're going to continue to get better and better and better. And we're going to actually lose what we are in the United States. And it's our American pastime. It's not Japan's. It's not China's. It's the United States of America.
And we had Mike Veck on yesterday, who's the father of game day promotions, minor league promotions. It led to many things. Some could say the Savannah Bananas, or even
Disco Demolition Night. He was behind that with the White Sox.
What was the best minor league game promotion that you were a part of?
Easy. Midget wrestling. By far the best thing I've ever seen. I would want to be a promoter if I could, or even an agent. So if anybody's out there, little guy, I would love to help her. Little person, excuse me. I absolutely loved it. They walked in from right field. I swear the entire song played in their walk-up song because it took them so long. It was phenomenal. And they played the personality. They came off the top ropes. I saw a backflip. Phenomenal.
Well, see,
Midget wrestling.
That's what's a great answer, by the way. But Bill Veck, Mike's dad, was also famous. One of the things he did was he brought a little person in to bat in the major leagues, and he walked on 4 pitches because his strike zone was so small. But he batted for the White Sox in an actual game when he was the owner. I love the vision of you for just being the guy who like makes all the deals for the little people everywhere. Like you're coming like, my guy here in his contract, he gets this hotel room, he gets this, and you're the one that's there fighting for him. I love it.
Absolutely. So maybe I'll just start an agency. If you guys want in, maybe some equity, we'll talk about it.
I'm in.
Yeah, let's talk about it. Yeah, it reminds me of WCW back in the day.
And you know what we'll be with our employees or our colleagues? Transparent. Unlike John Fisher, we will have an ethos of transparency with anyone that we represent in this agency.
There's no doubt about it. And I feel like Davey fits somewhere in this.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah, Davey definitely fits.
He could be the Hill manager.
We're the Jerry Maguires. He's the Bob Sugar of the agency.
Michael, thank you, man. We always enjoy this. Let's do it again soon.
Hey, sounds good, guys. Take care. God bless.
All the way on the path to the World Series. We've on the path to the NFL draft as well. The top players in college football. We'll discuss several of them with Jim Nagy of the Reese's Senior Bowl next.
I'm here at the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix, but that's not the only big race that's on people's minds. Let's go talk about it.
There's no way Biden can win again. There's just no way. Even the people that voted for him because they didn't like Trump, now at least have to see like senile, not all there. Probably won't be alive for 4 more years.
Are you a Trump guy? Or are you a DeSantis guy? Or someone else?
I don't like any of them.
Who's your dream candidate? Who would you want to run?
Myself. I think the best candidates probably are smart enough not to run.
I just hope there's somebody that's young enough to care about the country instead of their politics.
My fear is they get Gavin Newsom from California. And I think it would be the new cool vote for the younger people, and that's what I don't like.
Who do you think on the Republican side would be able to take on Gavin Newsom?
Great question. As a Republican registered, I love what Trump's body of work did, but they're just out to get him and destroy him, and we won't get things done, which is crappy for me to say. I thought DeSantis was going to be the guy. Trump only has 4 years left. He cannot fix everything that just happened in 4 years. And he's going to be battling indictments and all these false stuff for the next 4 years. We won't get anything done. And it'll just be the stalemate in America. That's why I almost don't want him in. But if he is the leading candidate, that's who I'm going to vote for.
Is there any Democrat that you would vote for, consider voting for?
Absolutely not.
Yeah. What about RFK Jr.?
No.
Who should our first female president be?
Michelle Obama, of course. Okay. Yeah.
I'm going to go with Harambe 2024.
We have the 2024 presidential race coming up, and I wanted to see who you thought your favorite TV characters would vote for. Homer Simpson, like who do you think he would vote for?
Donald Trump, all the way.
Vito Corleone.
Whoa. Whoever advances the cause of the Corleone family. Yeah.
Tony Soprano. If Tony Soprano is voting in the 2024 election, who do you think he's voting for?
I'm gonna go Ron DeSantis.
Okay, why do you think that?
Just seems like a Ron DeSantis kind of guy.
Is this a meatball joke that you're trying to make right now? What about Homer Simpson?
Homer would vote for Biden because he's a dope.
Who do you think Napoleon Dynamite would vote for?
That's a good question. I actually don't know.
There's a right answer here.
He's voting for himself or Pedro.
There's a Viking show, I think.
Okay.
Maybe that's Hulu. I don't know.
So in the Viking show, whatever the main character is, who do you think they would vote for in 2024?
Probably a goat or a dog.
I think we have one of those in office right now. So who do you think Jon Snow would vote for in this upcoming election?
I'm gonna say Donald J. Trump.
Why do you think so?
Because Game of Thrones is all about drama, and Trump comes with the drama, baby.
Would you vote for Trump from jail?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, probably. Because at that point, what else do you have to lose?
Okay, would you vote for Trump from a jail cell?
Yeah, baby, I will get Trump out of jail.
Would you vote for Trump in jail?
Oh, yeah.
Based as
The thing that Trump needs to remember is there's another political figure that said, I don't recall very well. Yeah. And that's all he's got to say.
Is there like a dream candidate, someone that you think could like save us all?
Yeah, Jesus.
Amen to that.
Coming up, we discussed Deshaun Watson, Aaron Rodgers, and Bill Belichick. Hot Mike with Hunton and Wirth rolls on across the OutKick network. It's time to discuss the top college prospects headed to both the Reese's Senior Bowl coming up in February and also the NFL Draft and to an NFL market near you. Jim Nagy joins us. Always great to catch up with the executive director of the Reese's Senior Bowl as we scout college football. Jim, hope things are well.
Things are good. It's great to see you guys back together.
That's right.
After a couple weeks.
We agree.
You guys,
we agree.
Yeah.
Every now and again, love on the rocks. You just got to separate a little bit. And
separation anxiety is real.
That's time to come back together. And it was time for us to come back together this week.
Love it.
Did you make it to Seattle?
I did not, man. I wish I did.
Chad, by the way, he said it was 50-50 that he would go.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we swung at 51-49 in favor of my wife.
Okay.
So, no, I did not make it. Actually, I took the weekend off. It was the first weekend I didn't go out to a game, but it was awesome just to sit on my couch and watch that football game. There were some great games, but that one did not disappoint.
What stood out to you about that game, watching it? Obviously, great atmosphere and good rivalry between those two teams, but player-wise, what stuck with you?
Yeah, first off, West Coast stepped up. That was a great showcase of West Coast football. They brought it. Both fan bases did a great job. But it really was about the quarterbacks. It was about the quarterbacks, and there was a lot of great NFL talent on both sides of the ball. And it's not like we weren't paying attention to them. But the big takeaway was what these quarterbacks did under some pressure. I think we talked about it last week that the stat was out there that going into the game, Bo Nix was the least pressured quarterback in college football. And I think Michael Penix was the fifth least pressured going into that game. And now they finally went against a defense that had, multiple NFL picks on each side. And they got heated up a little bit. And you saw them in some different situations, more realistic NFL situations with people in their face and pressure and tighter windows and saw how they performed. And I thought both guys did great. But Michael Penix coming on the field after that stalled fourth down and going bang, bang, and just the quick strike nature of what Washington's offense is and scoring that late go-ahead touchdown. That was big time for Michael Penix, that's for sure. And again, taking nothing away from Bo Nix, he got back on the field, let his team down, they missed the field goal. But I thought both quarterbacks helped themselves.
What has Bo Nix done to help himself by making the move to Oregon from where he was at Auburn?
Well, I think he needed to make the move. Again, for people that are down here in the southeast part of the country, and especially in the state of Alabama where we are, we're pretty intimately familiar with, Bo Nix and his dad and the Auburn legacy. And things just, it just didn't end great. There's a lot of pressure from the fan base. So I felt like Bo had to get out. So the good thing for him is that he's cleaned up a lot of bad habits. We've talked about that. I think that he's moved on mentally. And just proven to everyone that he can, from a football perspective, play inside the pocket and not just be a runaround guy, but also just like kind of clean slate. And, to me, this is just me like going really too deep into the nitty gritty with personnel side of things. But like that's a different locker room in Eugene, Oregon than it is in Auburn, Alabama. You're dealing with different types of kids from different backgrounds, and I think that's good for any quarterback. Now Bo's been exposed to, just different guys, and I think that's going to serve him well when he gets to the next level. So, it doesn't always work out in the portal, but I think it's worked out well for Bo.
Washington's wide receiving core, is that entire group NFL talent worthy when you watch them?
Yeah, I haven't watched the Pope kid because he's not available to us. But yeah, for sure, Rome Odunsi's our top-rated senior receiver. Jalen McMillan isn't far behind now. So I think safely right now they would both be day 2 draft picks. I've seen some first-round stuff for Rome. They're both really good players, man. Yeah, they're both NFL starters. Again, just leaning back into my NFL personnel background. Yeah. I mean, you can talk round all you want, but what really matters is what do they project to be? And both of those guys will be starting NFL receivers.
First round for Brock Bowers, who's injured in this past weekend's game at Vandy for Georgia. He's going to have the tightrope surgery on the high ankle, but it doesn't look good. 2-time national champion, and again, first round projection for him. What do you make of the injury, and just given the fact that the talent that's going to be missed on the field for Georgia and what he projects to be at the next level, Jim?
Yeah, it certainly hurts Georgia. Not that they don't have good players. They have a lot of other good players. They have a good receiving crew this year. So, and I think that they've done a nice job really incorporating Brock and making him like the central focus of their passing game, which is different from where they've been in years past with the guys like George Pickens. But I'll say this, I'll use this as an excuse to let the Heisman committee, I'm going to let them off the hook a little bit, because I doubt Brock Bowers would have been in New York for the Heisman presentation, and he should have been. So we'll use this injury as an excuse for him not to be in New York. But certainly if you were bringing the top 5 college players in the game this year to New York for the Heisman, Brock would have been one of those guys. He's safely, I think the gap between him and the next best tight end in this draft is probably the biggest gap of any position group in this year's draft. And now the intrigue will be around, is Brock coming back and playing the college football playoff. If Georgia can continue on the path that they're on right now and go to a 3rd straight playoff, will Brock be there with them? I think that's what, we'll all be focused on. Does he need to show anything more to NFL scouts? Probably not. He's probably locked up that top tight end spot, and whoever wants to take a tight end up high, it will be Brock. But I just knowing Brock and who he is and what everyone in the building is I've heard about him over the years. I'm sure he's going to try to get back and get back with his guys for another run.
Let's stay in the SEC. Tennessee gets a big win over Texas A&M at home, but they do it with defense, which is not something we've ever seen under Josh Heupel. The defensive front has some veteran guys. Amari Thomas comes to mind in the middle that's playing really well. Joe Milton having a disappointing senior season so far. What do you think when you see this Tennessee team not getting great quarterback play, but still finding a way to win against an A&M team that's challenged offensively right now as well?
Yeah, I just think immediately Josh Heupel and that coaching staff, and what a great job they've done. They're winning in different ways, and that's the sign of good coaching. You don't need to have kind of a historic season from a Hendon Hooker to win a bunch of games. And that's what they were last year. So just kind of a different incarnation of a Josh Heupel team. So very well coached. And again, has Joe Milton been disappointing from an NFL person's perspective? Probably not. I just felt like Joe was built up. Joe was built up a ton in the offseason, and probably unrightfully so. It's hard when you see the kid and you watch him throw it, like at the Manning camp, which I did. It's easy to get really enamored with the tools, and everyone saw the videos and all that. But he had a long way to go. I mean, there was a lot of growth there that had to take place, and the season's not over. He still has a bunch of football to play. So we got to remember he's been in college football a long time, but he hasn't been the guy in a long time. So he still has growing to do, and hopefully he puts it together here in the second half. If I'm a Vols fan, that's what I'm excited about, is that, he hasn't played his best football. Well, we're still figuring out ways to win games. And so, like, at the Senior Bowl, we're not writing Joe off. I mean, there's still a lot of football to be played, but I just think it's great that team's figuring out ways to win with defense.
Tennessee on the road this week in Tuscaloosa against Bama is one of the top games of the college football weekend. The game, though, is Penn State, Ohio State. Are you headed to Columbus?
I'm not, but I got the helmets behind me. No, that's a big revenge game up in Tuscaloosa. Living down here in Alabama, that is they want revenge after last year for sure. But that Ohio State Penn State's going to be a big boy matchup. I mean, we're really talking about 3 teams up there in the Big Ten right now between Michigan, Penn State, Ohio State. Will they cannibalize themselves? I think the Big Ten's worst fear is that they all knock each other off, and we're sitting here after the Ohio State Michigan game, and all 3 of those teams have a loss. That's worst case scenario for the conference. But this will be a good game. It'll be really a first test for Penn State, and then certainly Ohio State had a real big test against Notre Dame. So no, this will be a good one. And there's a lot of great prospects on both sides of the ball. We can jump into that if you want, but this is going to be a great matchup.
Yeah, I was going to say, football fans, NFL or college, you'll see the 2 legitimate first-round picks on the offensive line for Penn State, but also at wide receiver with Marvin Harrison Jr. for Ohio State.
For sure, yeah. Olu Fashanu, the left tackle for Penn State, is a really safe pick. Really good football player, really clean character. Normally when we get guys that could be top 10 draft picks, like I'm realistic about Senior Bowl chances and letting agents, talk these guys out of playing in the game. But I've talked to some people up in Penn State. We might have a chance. I mean, here's a guy that could have came out in last year's draft and been a first-round pick, and he chose to go back to school. So we're optimistic there. They got Caden Wallace on the other side at right tackle, who's a draftable player. And then on the Ohio State side, Marvin Harrison Jr., a really, really good player. And then a senior who we will be focused on and was one of our stock-up players for the week here at the Senior Bowl is Cade Stover, their tight end. Had a couple touchdowns last week. Tight end hasn't been a real big focal point of the passing game since Ryan Day took over there. But right now, Cade's on pace to break Ricky Dudley's single-season receiving records for tight ends at Ohio State, set way back in like 95, 96. So Cade's off to a great start. That's good. That's going to be a really fun matchup.
I feel like there's always someone every week, Jim, that you bring to us that maybe we're not asking about. We maybe even haven't seen them a lot, but that you keep your eye on, or that your scout's coming back to you to tell you about each and every week. Is there someone that comes to mind this week that you would like to talk about, that someone's got an eye on?
Well, I'm really focused on what I'm doing this week, and I'm going back up to Auburn, which I've been a couple times. It's because of my family. My son's up there. But I'm excited to see Ole Miss. I've seen this Auburn football team a couple of times, but Ole Miss had the most players on our watch list. And I said this at the start of the season. That was not because we thought they were going to win the SEC. It's because they had a lot of transfer portal guys, and we needed to give them time and figure them out. Well, the staff is starting to figure these guys out. The grades are coming in. They're giving me real focus on who I need to pay attention to on Saturday. So, there's a running back. I think we've talked about Ulysses Bentley, their backup running back. Quinshon Judkins was all the talk of college football when we were up there in Nashville for media days. He's a great player. And then he got hurt. Bentley got some run. And now we're seeing the last couple of weeks, now that they've seen what Bentley can do, it's becoming more of a two-headed monster than just the Quinshon Judkins show. So I'm excited to see Bentley up in person myself. Trey Harris, the receiver, who's had a monster year. I'm excited to see him up close. So it'll be a good one. And then another prospect kind of off the radar for a lot of people, J.J. Pegues, the defensive tackle for Ole Miss, who at one time played tight end at Auburn, is going to be on that Ole Miss defensive line, one of the most athletic defensive linemen in the country. And I've talked to some NFL teams that when we get through the season, they're going to try to talk Pegues into playing offensive line at the next level, because there's some scouts that think he has Pro Bowl potential if he embraces the move to the offensive line. So that's a guy I'm going to watch as well.
Well, you just brought up 2 transfer portal guys, so I have to ask the question, does the transfer portal make it easier or harder on you and your job when you get to see guys now at 2 different programs often?
It makes it harder to track them because some of these guys are jumping in the portal over the summer and we lose track of them. But it makes the evaluation easier from a couple things. They're usually exposed to multiple schemes. You can see them do different things on the football field, but also now they're exposed to 2 different buildings full of people that have gotten to know them off the field. So complete support staffs, complete coaching staffs. So now you're opening yourself up to a whole different group of people. And all you're trying to do as a scout through the process is to get to learn the player. So I don't know if I'm making sense, but the more people you can talk to, the more people you can talk to about these players, the better. So it is helping NFL scouts figure these players out.
Jim Nagy has been our guest. Final thoughts on the way out. Tell us about Tyson Bagent, the backup quarterback at Chicago, backing up Justin Fields from Shepherd.
Yeah. Not Shepherd in West Virginia. Not many people would even heard of Shepherd University in Shepherdstown, West Virginia. But we had Tyson in the game last year, so it's people ask, do you take any, enjoyment out of seeing the guys? Of course, but it's more about what they've done. Again, we invited Tyson to the Senior Bowl last year because I thought the kid was going to get drafted. I thought he had draftable talent. Then he slips out of the draft, and you're very disappointed for him because that's every player's dream is to get picked. Yeah. He doesn't get picked. Well, now it's like redemption. He makes the Bears roster. He's the number 2. He's not even the 3rd guy. He's the 2. And now with Fields' injury, he's out there. He scores his first NFL touchdown. I hit him up after the game, just congratulating him. So really, really cool. Now I'm excited to see he gets a full week of work with the ones in practice, and they can build the game plan around his strengths going into the game as opposed to last week when he was kind of thrown in there. So yeah, really cool story, man. Undrafted free agent from Division II as a rookie is out there starting in the NFL. So just happy for the kid. Tyson's awesome.
So is Jim Nagy, Chad. He's the executive director of the Reese's Senior Bowl. Always bring it. It's another great visit with you. Thank you so much, and enjoy the college football weekend.
All right, guys. Have a great weekend. We'll see you.
Thanks, Jim.
Ole Miss Auburn. I want to see Ole Miss in person again.
I'm excited about that game.
They have a chance.
Yeah.
It's a crazy one down the backstretch, but they're in the mix for the SEC. We'll jump back into the mix on discussion with Deshaun Watson, Aaron Rodgers, and Bill Belichick. That's next right here on Hot Mic.
What you're experiencing is the bold taste of a Southern legend. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, authentic Tennessee mountain-style spirits. We believe in crafting flavors that were born from tradition but defy expectation, and pioneering a new experience with every sip. Because if it doesn't do this, it ain't this. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey.
Welcome into OutKick the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader. I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life. ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
We live in a land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
When Leah Thomas walked in that first day, it got silent, and every girl was uncomfortable.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the number 1 overall pick.
Is it fair for people to be upset with Barbie?
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna live. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose. I mean, what have you seen firsthand of how this has affected you in the plant and your fellow employees? Under Joe Biden, the Taliban has retaken Afghanistan. Putin has invaded Ukraine. So if there was ever a time for freaking aliens to inhabit and conquer Earth, now would be that time.
We've seen coaches throw water bottles. We've seen coaches act like idiots. We've seen coaches slap other coaches. But I think if you're involved in carjacking, you're inherently a rotten human. The level of stupid that sometimes gets on our YouTube chat just gives me a headache. You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it. The American people are being cheated. We, ladies and gentlemen, are being cheated.
There's no doubt in my mind he could have caught the ball in his back pocket if he'd been running. Blowing a lead and losing a game is 100 times more lasting and painful in some clubhouses than losing the game 15-0. If I had to start a list in the last 10 years of horrible underachievers, he's at the top.
We were directly impacted by the whole Leah Thomas thing, And we were able to see you guys on the ground with your signs supporting. That was huge.
They were saying, oh, it's only 1 or 2. That's rubbish. And we all know that's rubbish. Once those trans-identifying males were able to succeed, it just encouraged others.
Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Old Taste of the Southern Legend.
Sixth and Peabody, our studio location. Love broadcasting live from here each and every day with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Glad you're with us. Hotline with Hunton and Wirth here on OutKick. Chad, great visit from Senator Tommy Tuberville, our best yet, we felt like, with just the discussion points on NIL. And, I mean, for the first time, we're discussing revenue sharing in college sports, even on Capitol Hill. He's mentioning that. 6 months ago, you couldn't get any of the decision makers to mention revenue sharing in a sentence, an answer, a phrase. They wouldn't say it. The only ones saying it were collectives.
Yeah, and look, I think so many arguments kind of become caricatures of themselves at times. And whenever there is an issue, when you present it, you get the predictable opinions that are very extreme. We talk about this. We'll see it on our YouTube chat, I'm sure, or on Twitter, X, whatever. But you do this, and it's usually a existential crisis for the entire sport, and players are getting away with too much, and they're making too much, and it's going to make everyone else jealous. The sport's falling apart. Coaches have no power, yada, yada, yada. Or it's these players making a ton of money for NIL and doing whatever they want. It's the greatest thing ever for the sport. Coaches, administrators need less power. Players need more, and it's all good. There's no negatives to it. I thought that was a very nuanced discussion with Senator Tuberville and what he said. And one of his main quotes and takeaways from me was him saying there needs to be revenue sharing. Hutton asked the question about media rights and how much the networks are paying the sports, that there does need to be revenue sharing. The issue then becomes, and he says this, the revenue has to be shared amongst all sports, male and female, if you want to do it that way. And when you do that, it could lead to other financial issues or problems. Hutton, I feel like there's a pretty clear-cut solution to this and a no-nonsense way about going about it, but it's going to take some compromise from a number of people. And I think on all sides of this, compromise absolutely from coaches and administrators. They're the ones that are going to have to come down from their high horse the most in the NCAA, right? There's going to have to be compromise from players. Also, there's going to be compromise from everyone around this story. That was a very productive conversation with Senator Tuberville we had today.
Yeah, and I opened the show by saying, like, it's hard for me to listen to the top of college athletics cry poor. It's a $1 billion NCAA tournament that Charlie Baker's overseeing, and they want to keep it that way for them, not the athletes. And the media rights contracts alone. What with the SEC per team, the payout was $10 million in 2007. It's $54 million this past payout, and it's projected to be $105 million by 2029. And they want to keep the vast majority of the percentage of that revenue. So if they want to point to all this money that's going to be distributed, well, stop paying the distribution amounts to coaching buyouts, and you'll actually get somewhere in saving some of the financial issues that you're having. Or paying coaches way too much for something they haven't done yet, And by and large, you end up firing them and paying the rest of their salary while they're sitting at home, or they're an analyst collecting the $30,000 check, so you have to keep paying them. And the offset doesn't come into effect. That's where the disconnect is. It's not that they can't afford. They were affording to have all of the teams, all of the programs funded, and it goes through football and hoops on campus. You still were able to do that, and now you're saying all of a sudden you can't do that while you're making $105 million a year instead of $10 in 2007. I'm not buying that crap. Not buying it. But they want the surface level fan bases and the fervor and the attention to be on that more than it is about the almighty dollar, because you don't see what goes on behind the scenes. And once the coach is fired, the fan bases are so pissed off at the coach that they'll pay him anything. They got a loan to help the school when the school actually doesn't need it at the highest level. The other schools, I've long said, you have a budget. If you can't make your budget, it's not on the Power Five to help make Shepherd's budget, right? Like it needs to be more than just Division I, Division II, and so on. And I think we'll see that branch off, but it's the same decision makers, Chad, that sign these mega contracts and do away with the Pac-12, that are trying to do away with the collectives and the NIL model as we see it now. I agree, we need structure. There need to be guidelines, but it doesn't need to be so lopsided that we're back to what we had, which wasn't fair to begin with. And the same ones that did away with Pac-12 for more money are the same ones crying poor on Capitol Hill today. Yeah,
Penn State's not responsible for Akron's budget, is what you're saying, in terms of
That's
keeping
right.
them afloat. And I understand that. Instead of saying we can't do this, and this in this case would be the revenue sharing for players.
Right.
The schools have to get back to just not doing whatever the agent and the coach wants at all times. They have to fight back on that, and it has to be a collective effort. Every school is so nervous that someone's going to poach their coach that they do whatever the agent asks of them, and that includes these insane buyouts that these schools get tied up in when a coach goes there and doesn't win to the level they want. I don't know if it takes just almost some version of collusion with all ADs everywhere to say we're not doing it anymore. These insane buyouts have got to go away. This is the financially responsible decision that we are making collectively to not go down that road again, and that's eliminated. Or they're going to have to go hire the coordinator that badly wants that opportunity to be the head coach at X school, and that won't need a huge buyout because they want the opportunity to make some more money, and they're not going to have to be tied down to a big buyout. I don't know what the answer is.
Yeah.
But it is out of – if you want to talk about something that's out of control, and I can see the writing on the wall with this where some would be concerned that it may be untenable in the future if it continues to go down this road. I get some of that when you're looking at the future. This is untenable, though, right now. This is an issue that needs to be handled with these buyouts that are out of control in college sports.
Well, and whenever coaches say, they say to call my agent, the agent is Jimmy Sexton. So the same agent that's wanting the university to pony up more and give more control to the coach, more money, more buyout money, is the same agent that will be there replacing said coach when he's fired. And is the same agent replacing the opening whenever Lincoln Riley bolts for USC. He's landing one client in USC, and he's replacing his client back, a new client back in Oklahoma. Like, it's just it's a merry-go-round of sorts. Plenty to go with that. Don't get me started on coaching search firms.
Yeah,
ADs are getting paid millions, and they can't even hire their own coach because they need a search firm to do the background work.
Yeah, it's another complete waste of money by these schools. Hey, quick shout out and congratulations to good friend of the show, Nashvilleian Nate Bargatze, hosting SNL. Not to sneeze.
Coming up in a couple of weeks, Chad.
Fought it.
October
28th.
A week
Nate
would
appreciate me blocking that sneeze.
Right. A week
there,
from Saturday, right? Yeah.
Week from Saturday, musical guest Foo Fighters. That's a big deal. Nate has risen to the top of the comedy game. And this is affirmation of that.
Like I just sent him a text about we will connect with him over this experience.
Yes.
That's going to be awesome.
That is an interview that we will hopefully have at some point to discuss the experience on SNL. Pete Davidson hosted the season premiere. We've interviewed Pete Davidson before also. Been face-to-face with him when he was a young comic. But that's very cool for Nate, so congrats to him.
Chad, it hasn't gone well. It's going great for Nate Bargatze. It hasn't gone well for Deshaun Watson and the early stages of what is a mega contract, speaking of big money, in Cleveland with the fully guaranteed contract. We're hopping back on the bus or off the bus. Davey Hudson rejoins us, and we head to Cleveland for a big question.
We do, and before we get to that, I wanted to say my favorite buyout to then hire the next guy happened at the University of Florida, where they ended up firing Will Muschamp, replaced him with Jim McElwain, another Jimmy Sexton guy. And then once they got done there, Jimmy Sexton negotiated the buyout for McElwain after there was a scandal about him making certain comments in regards to death threats for the players. Once that buyout was negotiated, they went and got another Jimmy Sexton client, Dan Mullen. So it's a lot of money right there.
That's really the trifecta. That's what agents like Jimmy Sexton like to call it. If you can compound the interest of buyouts with 3 of your clients at one school, one after the other, you really hit it big.
I think we call it a turkey.
If you missed the interview, go check it out with Coach Tuberville, senator from Alabama. Final thought on that: it's Jimmy Sexton, and it's the networks who are in control of college athletics by and large. The money's not what you think in NIL compared to the money that both are involved with behind the scenes with big college athletics.
Both can be a problem too.
All right, our bus isn't fancy enough that it's a Tesla self-driving bus, so I'll take the reins back. But going back to Deshaun Watson, the Browns should have Deshaun Watson be QB2.
No, absolutely not.
Off the bus on this. It's one win. It's a good win. But that's your guy. I mean, look, it's not been good so far, but that's your guy. He looked good against the Titans. The hope is that he will look good again. You're paying him the guaranteed contract to be QB1. He's the starter in Cleveland when he's healthy.
Yes, and I'm assuming he's getting healthier instead of he's playing this weekend and then he's not. They're taking on the Colts. And for those just assuming that P.J. Walker had something to do with that game, if at least in the league I was a part of, luckily I wasn't a part of playing P.J. Walker. Someone did. And he scored all of 3.7 points in fantasy football last week as the starter in Cleveland. That tells you how much he had to do with that game.
Not saying he's more talented. By no means is that the case, but seems like the team can tolerate P.J. Walker a little bit more, especially the head coach.
Well, here's what I would like to see from Deshaun Watson. Some urgency to want to get back. This is the chip that's used, and if he is the wrong person to get this guaranteed contract, he would be the wrong person by wanting to sit on his pile of money and not being in a hurry to get back and help his team and lead the team and play on Sundays. I hope he's showing some urgency around that building about wanting to get back and help this team. That's what I hope for the Browns. I hope that for him. I hope that for all future quarterbacks that are going to argue with their agent that they are the person deserving of all of this guaranteed money. I hope that for everyone.
Davey, Aaron Rodgers and Belichick are also big discussion points here.
They are. And so Aaron Rodgers, are we going to see him return to we will see him return to the field this year?
On the bus. I have completely flipped on this, and seeing him throw the football on the field, I think he's going to be back. And that win, I didn't think it would matter because the Jets would be out of the playoff hunt. They're 3-3 right now. I think they're going to win. They've got an easier schedule coming up, Hutton. I feel like this team's going to win enough where they're going to be in the mix mathematically, and he's going to come back in late December.
Raiders have 3 wins. Chargers are 2-3. You've got of course, Jets at 3-3. Bills are 4-2. Steelers, Browns, Bengals all with 3 wins. Colts, Texans both with 3 wins. And then we mentioned the Jets. I'm on the bus with this. He's ahead of schedule. He's on the field, no crutches. He's tossing the football around. And the experts are saying he looks to be a month and a half ahead of schedule. I can't explain it. I can't explain how Terrell Suggs came back with the Achilles injury in the same season. It's been done before. Here's hoping that Rodgers gets back, and yes, they're going to play him when he's healthy.
And finally, we go to Foxborough, and Bill Belichick will break the NFL record for most losses by a head coach. How many does he lack to get there? He will break the record with 9 more losses. It's currently a tie
Yeah,
between Dan Reeves and Jeff Fisher.
He's
going
gonna
to
get there.
165.
Yes, he's going to do it, and he'll also become, I believe, the coach with the most wins in NFL history.
He will break. Here's my prediction. He's going to break both records with another team, not with the Patriots. He'll be fired at the end of the year, or he'll resign. He'll leave on his own. He'll get another job. He will be the all-time winningest coach and the all-time losingest coach with another team.
You'll be
That's where
remembered
he'll
for one
set
of those.
both records.
That's right. That's right. You have to play quite a bit to accomplish either.
Yeah.
And you got to be the best to accomplish one.
Nothing
there are a
more
lot of bad
dangerous-
coaches that can lose games.
On the prior point, nothing more dangerous than Aaron Rodgers with a vendetta. And he's got something to prove right now because people doubted his ability to come back this season. He'll be back.
We'll be back tomorrow, 3 o'clock Eastern, 3 to 6. Join us for Hot Mic with Hunton and Wirth.